I wanna come again, I wanna be so high in your eyes. I wanna disappear inside you and be alright tonight. You say your medicine is all that I require, and that I'm blinded by the stars in my eyes. I would never disappear when I'm open wide, if it's most of the time. I've been sinking here, 'cause I can't seem to make up my mind. You say your innocence is all that I desire, and that I'm blinded by the stars in my eyes. It's true, I've been dreaming of you. Nothing I take can help me escape the truth. You need me, well, I need me too. You say the evidence is found in my denial, and that I'm blinded by the stars in my eyes. It's true, I've been dreaming of you. Nothing I take can help me escape the truth. The way I behave always gets in the way. Nothing I say can take my reputation away. You need me, I need me too. Hey, I just wanna change the world. I just want the perfect girl. I don't wanna hang around, I'd rather be found. It gets better, I wonder, my pleasure together. Everyone's waiting, anticipating. I will never be alone again. I'm immune to the things they said. My heart's unbreaking.
Let's go, people! Sunday night!
Truth. I know that you will understand, because I finally found myself. My heart's unbreaking. You're radiant. Yo! Hey, dude, how we doing? I just want to change the world, but I'm not gonna wait my turn. I don't ever want to come down, I'd rather be found. It gets better, I want my pleasure together. Everyone's waiting, anticipating. Big beautiful warrant, huh? The big beautiful box. The big beautiful box. I will never be alone again. I'm immune to the things they said. Now let's go. You crazy. I know that you will understand, because I finally found myself. My heart's unbreaking. Let's go. You're radiant. You're radiant. Yeah, my world. Whoa. Radiate, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna let's go. Hey, whoa. I can't pretend. No, 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 no. I hope this never ends. Wow! You, I will never be alone again. I'm immune to the things they said. My heart's unbreaking. You're radiant truth. I know that you will understand, because I finally found myself. My heart's unbreaking. You're radiant. You're radiant. Let's go. You like this shirt? Yeah, dude, I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing yesterday. Right? It's a good one. I just bought a couple of shirts from some fucking... I got them from some company on Instagram. I don't normally shop on Instagram, but I got a wild hair up my ass because they were advertising these like sleeveless, right? You show me something sleeveless and you just instantly get my fucking attention. Because I have always liked, as Jenny could attest, I like having the minimum amount of fucking clothing on at all times. I'm serious, dude. Dude, like, what I've normally, like, when Jenny met me, she came to the apartment that me and Bryce lived in, and I had the heat turned up to like 78 degrees, and I would just be walking around in there in like a tiny pair of shorts, no shoes. I like, dude, stop stupidity, let's go. I like, you know, I mean, I was a fucking beach bum, right? I grew up in LA where it was hot all the time. I spent a lot of time at the beach. So I have always been a like clothing minimal guy. So I do like the sleeveless, but you know what's weird about it, guys? Is it's made of like stretchy, like it's not cotton, okay? They're made of like some stretchy, almost like a rash guard material, right? Is what they're made of. Stop Stupidity. How are you doing? Stop Stupidity got rear-ended like in a fucking car wreck the other night. Hopefully they're doing good. Right? And so like they're like made of this sort of like stretchy
rash guardy kind of material that's actually really nice, right? Dude, you want to live through what's coming, dude? I'm sorry, dude. We're gonna take a rain check on whatever you're selling there, boss. We appreciate you, right? But we're gonna just go ahead, and you're doing much better. Good. We're gonna go ahead and send the prophet on to his next mission. Stretchy pants, dude. Let's go. Oh shit, dude. Put the voodoo on me, dude. That's not the first voodoo on me, boss. Oh my god, bro. I've had like an entourage of, you know, Christian women trying to save my soul for a long period of time, boss. Let's go. Oh Lord, have mercy. Dude, that's why you got to keep me away from Paula White. If she crosses my path, dude, that guy from Journey is going to be finished, bro. She will be hunting me down. Dude, let's go. Oh, Paula. Oh, dude. Oh, shit. So France and Germany have the full version of the Epstein list now. So I don't know. That reminds me. Let me make a note to do the Paula White what do you call it? I want to do a Paula White sort of like we have Elon, right? I'm going to do one of those of Paula White with her, right? All right. Let me make a note of that. Paula White emote. All right. We got it. We got to have Paula White in the fold, dude. We do, boss. She's a must-have. Dude, yeah, they're married, right? Yeah, she's married to the guy, one of the guys from Germany. They're redacted just like ours. So, all right. So here's what we're going to figure out. There is a lot of, like I said, guys, the Epstein revelations are going to be like long coming. Like even tonight, Jenny found something that I'm going to look into where it looks like, you know, Sarah Kellen, right? Sarah Kellen, the lieutenant of Epstein. We've talked a lot about her. She's the girl with Epstein in front of the plane. She's also the girl in the green shirt holding the MacBook Pro out at the island. She was like one of his primary lieutenants. So she married that race car driver, that Vickers guy, but like there's a bunch of weird checks of money being paid to the Vickers guy's company and money being paid to Epstein from them from like 2014. So there's like a lot of shit that, you know, I think what it is it's going to be like, I think for the next couple of years, like this last dump, 9, 10, 11, and 12 were so many files and all of it was new, like 3 million things. Yeah, a lot to dig through that. I think it's going to be like 2 years of discoveries. And then like a year from now, somebody's going to take something we're discovering now and they're going to find like a new layer to it. And so it's going to be a thing, dude. We are in a brave new world right now. And I'm here for it, guys. I am here for it. I think it's like we got to continue just like banging away at this, chipping away, unpacking, uncovering. You know what I'm saying? Like slowly but surely. It's like an onion, right? Where you just keep peeling layers. And I think as long as we continue to stand at the onion and like take a layer off, it's going to take us somewhere. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like thinking about this and looking what's going on, it feels like my own journey to discovering that I was abused, Okay. And let me just tell you, it started with like these vague references and these things that didn't make sense. And then there would be like a body thing, like a chills or a type of deja vu feeling that let me know I was on the right track. But like once you shine a light in there and shine a light and you see a little bit of the truth, there's little you can do to stop it. Like even if you try to like prevent it from coming out, it just unravels. Like once you start pulling the layers off the onion, I feel like they start coming off on their own. Like it just starts shedding the layers, because at the end of the day, even when there's a cover up, even when there's like, you know, people actively trying to suppress this, the truth wants to come out. Okay. The truth is a living thing. It is like a living, energetic entity. And once it gets exposed, I feel like it finds the light on its own, man. I'm telling you, this is how like hidden affairs come to light. This is how people's secrets from their past come to light. It really is like an energetic thing. And you know, it's why oppressive regimes eventually fall, you know, because you just can't like suppress the truth forever, you know what I'm saying? And they are going to get exposed, right? I really believe they are. I really believe it's coming, and it may be like later rather than sooner. But you know, so what I'm doing right now, guys, is I finished Virginia Giuffre's book, and I had never read Julie K. Brown's book. So I'm reading this book. And when you take in the series of crazy events that got us here, it is nuts. Okay. Think about this. The first report to the FBI, Maria Farmer was 96, 30 years, okay? And it was like 10 years before he got arrested. Then it all got covered up over a period of a couple of years. Then it was 10 more years before he got arrested again and it came out. Then he ends up dead. And now we're like 7 years after that. And it is coming, you know, like building up momentum. It's just really like it's been such a crazy road, and like affected by things not related to the Epstein case. For example, the Me Too movement, what happened with Harvey Weinstein is literally the reason why this found the light of day. Okay. It is the women that stood up to Harvey Weinstein that for a moment changed how society looked at women who were abused, okay? Right after Me Too, there was a window of time where women coming forward was accepted and they were empowered. I mean, now there's more like aggression and shit, but there was that window right after 2018, 2019, when this shit cracked open. And even Julie K. Brown talks about after the Harvey Weinstein thing, the victims of Epstein, the survivors, came forward. They were actually got empowered. Like there were hardly any that would come forward. And what ended up happening, you know, is once Harvey Weinstein broke, like a bunch of the women survivors started coming forward. And especially the young ones from, you know, Palm Beach that weren't, you know, they weren't wealthy girls. They were, you know, the people he had like called from high schools and shit. I mean, it's really astonishing. It was like just a crazy series of seismic events that led us to where we're at now. And so I don't know, man. I feel really good. I feel really good. I can't say that the survivors are going to feel like they've gotten justice after all this. I don't know if they really will. I don't know if they're going to feel vindicated, but I do know that you know, heads are going to roll metaphorically. And they already are. Like somebody in Norway got arrested, Europe is kind of leading the way here, right? If we look at this, dude, a guy in Norway already got busted, right? Dude, look at this, right here. Okay. It is, let me find a good one we can look at. That's not it. That's something else. Oh, that's the Crown Prince's son. Okay. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay. It's a former Norway prime minister. All right. Thorbjørn Jagland, right? So he was he's been charged with aggravated corruption after a police probe into his ties with Jeffrey Epstein. So isn't that crazy? Like, leave it to Europe. They're not fucking around here, okay? They are not fucking around here. Oh my gosh. So, guys, it's wild to think how this is even beyond just Epstein, because Epstein is obviously this huge deal, but these types of like powerful people taking advantage of young people, somebody mentioned like the Disney stars or the Nickelodeon stars. I mean, this shit, okay? This shit goes back to, Brett Ratner, okay? The director of Melania's documentary. It goes back to what's his name that was part of Community? What's that guy's name? Dan something. And the producer of one of those Nickelodeon shows. What's that guy's? Dan Schneider. Okay, right? Goes all the way back to the Dan Schneider weirdness. I mean, just it's been a rampant sort of thing, okay? It's been a rampant thing that has any time, and I think music, somebody mentions music too. Yeah, Corey Feldman was screaming it from the rooftops. It's like every industry that has young people in it, where the young people are like getting famous, or there's older people who start like mentoring them and taking them under their wing, and with super powerful people, that's where this abuse exists. Okay. It exists inside those crazy power dynamics. It is not unique. Okay. It is not unique. I'm not even talking about the casting couch. Okay. The casting couch is something different, because the casting couch is another type of manipulation, but that's usually not involved with the kids. Okay, the kids stuff is like more of a mentoring thing that becomes this sort of abusive, controlling relationship where there's not even like a 1-for-1. Okay, it's not even you do this for me and you're gonna get this. It's like it's even more. I don't want to negate the casting couch, okay? Because the casting couch is super traumatic and super like negative and nasty, but that's a transactional thing that typically involved adults, okay? And this is less about you're going to get something out of this. It is more like I'm mentoring you and your whole career is dependent on me, and now I'm abusing this dynamic. And it's like a parental dynamic. And this was the thing that's really crazy about Epstein, is when you look at this stuff, is when you look at this, he had a fatherly thing about him, where he was like a guide and a director and somebody who was going to open opportunities, somebody who was going to pay for their college or give them seed money for their business or introduce them to the right connections. Like there was always that fatherly ick that went along with the abuse. And I feel like the Dan Schneiders of the world are like super similar. You know, I mean, Harvey Weinstein, as sick as he was, and that guy's depraved, and that guy was a monster. But I feel like Harvey Weinstein was different than the Epstein and the Dan Schneiders, where they're like preying on kids. Okay, there is a difference with the kid stuff. It's like a slightly different dynamic. You know, not you know, the other stuff isn't less damaging, but there is a specific dynamic when it involves kids that is so gross, dude. It is just really like the most manipulative, abusive like stuff, you know, imaginable, because, you know, kids have an innocence where they trust and they keep trusting afterwards, right? They have limited ability to process what's going on or to even make a move to extricate themselves. It's really, you know, alarming, you know, and especially when you're dealing with like vulnerable kids that have already been through abuse or are living in alcoholic families where they don't have like any type of support network. I mean, we're talking like a high degree of toxicity, you know? Yeah, they look to, right? They look to, you know, Dan Snyder. No, I'm talking about Dan Schneider, not the Washington Redskins guy. I don't know if you're talking about something else, right? Oh, you're saying Dan Snyder was mentioned in the files? Oh, got you. I thought you were talking about this guy. This guy was notorious here. Okay, dude, right? Dan Schneider, the Nickelodeon guy, right? It's significant coverage of stuff, dude. Tommy Mottola, okay. So you're saying Dan Snyder of the Redskins was mentioned in the files? Dude, yeah, this guy was crazy. And you know, just, man, stuff is so gross, dude. Why do they always look like this too, dude? This guy is like, looks like he's the king of the young Republican. He could be like a member of the Young Republicans Club, dude. Right? Crazy. Right? Dude, he had so many misconduct allegations. Like so many, that guy. Bro. Yes, I am not in the files. Barack Obama is not in the files. Dude, they're trying to hang this shit on Barack Obama now too because of his, you know, one of his administration members who was like Goldman Sachs lawyer. Dude, they're trying to hang it. Commanders, yes, thank you. Thank you. But though the Commanders, though technically, Engrain, Dan Snyder was the Redskins owner because they changed the name after they forced the sale. So I don't believe Dan Snyder ever owned the Commanders, right? I believe they forced the sale and then they had the name change, right? Because he wasn't going to change the name. Wasn't he like digging his heels in or some shit? And then now they're, you know, then he was like trying to say the NFL like sabotaged him or something. Dude, yeah, the Giants owner. I mean, let's just say that a lot of these football owners are dirty, okay? Robert Kraft, I mean, you know, the Jack Shack guy. It's pretty common that if you're a billionaire that you are, you know, a degenerate in some way. I mean, when you think about it, I think it's like, yeah, Jerry Jones, Same way, I don't think you can have that much power and not be a fucking creep, okay? You know what I'm saying? I literally just don't think you can, okay? You know what I'm saying? I don't think you can have that much power and not be a creep. I just don't know that it's possible. Even if you weren't a creep going in, I feel like if you become a billionaire, you're going to be a creep going out. I do believe that level of power really corrupts people's brains. You know what I mean? I just do. I believe it does. I believe it warps people's brains. I've seen some stuff where they've talked about doing studies, okay? They doing studies with, I believe there was a Harvard study where they were studying like the effects of money on people's compassion. And they found that even in a game like Monopoly, when the money wasn't real, but the money afforded them a sense of power over the game, they found like behaviors consistent with a lack of compassion once people have a perception of power, right? It is a great argument for socialism. And this is the one that like we don't discuss enough, because socialism is not really effective at amassing mass amounts of wealth, but it is really effective at distributing power, right? As long as the people, involved up at the top aren't corrupt, okay? There's an inherent danger depending on who's like in charge of the socializing, the socialism, who's in charge of the consolidation or how the powers meted out. Because again, if you have and this has been the fault of really countries that have tried to be socialist, is if they end up having one person or one family ruling everything, then inherently they end up being corrupted by the power, and it just turns into another, corrupted system, right? It's like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, one flew over. Absolutely, man. Dude, absolutely, dude. Dude, Engrain, I don't know if I gave you a fucking puncher, but there you go. Right? But yeah, man, I believe, and I'll be honest, guys, after my experience of growing up and being a parent, I think, okay, I really do. I really believe what I'm about to say to you, and it may be controversial, but I think the root of much of our society's problems starts with the power dynamic of parenting, okay? And I think like unhealed people having kids and abusing power in the process of raising kids, including like physical abuse or emotional or sexual abuse, I believe that power dynamic not being like appreciated, understood, and people having, healing themselves to where they don't abuse the power they take over raising children, that it starts by delivering us damaged raw material. It's like the raw material of society are these young adults. And when they're coming into the world, having been abused or grown up at the receiving end of a really nasty power dynamic that was never like they weren't given a sense of empowerment or a sense of wholeness. They were like emotionally neglected or had to live up to insane standards. They had to earn their love. You know what I'm saying? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're putting young adults into the world that are carrying the wounds, like the sins of the father type shit. And then they go out and abuse power, and then they have kids and they abuse the power, and they create kids who go on and abuse power. And it is just a generational line, a thing that goes down the line where really it starts with us individually healing and then taking that healing into how we interact with young people and empower them, you know? And so it's really interesting though, because I'm seeing like right-wing people freaking out now. They're really scared of young people that like disobey, you know, young people that are protesting, or young people that are getting politically involved, or young people that are questioning authority, or young people that are refusing to play their societal games. They really don't like that. They really, really, like, the right-wingers hate it. They want everyone religious, obedient, and controlled, okay? Because religious people, okay, if you grow up in a heavily religious household, you are trained from the beginning to submit to power. You are trained to be okay with people abusing power over you, and then you grow up like scared of transgender people, or scared of like gay people, or scared of like the book in the library, or scared that like Satan is taking over the country. You know what I mean? So you live in this fear that is cultivated through being controlled by an oppressive like power system. And that's what they want, right? They want that allows the people up at the top, those billionaires, to just abuse the shit out of their power, and no one ever questions it. Any unchecked economic system can be corrupted. The answer is proper oversight on a system that has elements of various models. Oversight is the fail. Let's go, Gain Shark. I mean, there's something to be said for like proper oversight. Always, you know, always. Dude, let's go. Less people, more resources. Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, and no. You know, sometimes, you know, people can be beneficial when you're working the land. It depends on what you need, right? You know what I'm saying? If there had been more people in America to work the land, they wouldn't have needed to enslave people, right? And so, like, but I get what you're saying about less consumption, you know what I mean? Like less consumption. But I think we're about to have a serious ding in the number of people, right? There's about to be a serious generational die-off in the next like 30 years, right? Like worldwide, I think there's a lot of people that are going to, you know, be moving along into the next adventure. We're about to lose a lot of people, right? Today's kids don't want kids. Yeah. I mean, dude, I get it. You can't afford them, right? You can't afford them. Kids are unrealistic now, guys. I mean, I had a kid, right? But like, I don't think I could have had more than one, guys, you know, at a time. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. I don't think it's like so crazy. We went out to breakfast today. Okay. We went out to breakfast today at a restaurant that I had worked at 26 years ago, right? 27 years ago when I first moved to Portland. There's a restaurant. It's in a different location than it was when I worked at it, but because it's like bigger now. But so we went and had breakfast at this restaurant, and it's crazy, right? It's like 26 years ago that I worked there, 27 years ago, right? 1999. But so what was wild is thinking about how expensive shit has gotten since 1999, and how the wages have not really changed that much since 1999. It is like wages, you know, the price of things have tripled or quadrupled easily, right? But the wages have maybe like 1.75, you know, and it's just so, I don't know, dude. I don't even know how people survive when they're working a like standard paid, you know, like data entry style corporate job. I just don't know how they survive. You know, I honestly, I don't. I guess they're going into debt. I think people are going into debt. They must be, right? They have to be going into debt. It's the only thing I can, you know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I can make sense of. Right? I mean, it's what America's been doing. So it doesn't surprise me that it's what people are doing. But yeah, guys, all right, that's my little disclaimer. That's where we're at. I have a tweet right now that's sort of going a little bit viral about the private equity. Okay. It's this one. Where is it? Yeah, right here about banning private equity. That one's banging. Like, again, I think the private equity, a lot of people in the replies here are talking about Citizens United too. And Citizens United feels like it's an extension of this, that Citizens United is just private equity where in the buying of politicians, right? Right? That's really what it is. You have private equity that has moved into, you know, buying businesses and then either dismantling them or saddling them with debt, but extracting the resources out of businesses that have been successful, that maybe they feel are no longer useful, and they just extract the resources out of it, saddle the business with debt, and leave it to die, leaving the communities and the people that work there to carry the burden of that, which then eats up public benefits, etc. Then they're also buying up houses. Okay, they're also buying up large swaths of the stock market, which when you think about it, if you have all this private equity buying the stock market, it's like making it so individual investors can't really monetize their shit because, you know, like $1,000 turning into $2,000 is nothing, but 200 million turning into 400 million is, you know, something that affects the both the market and the wealth of the people putting that money in, right? So they're operating at scale that essentially makes it so the people not operating at scale can fucking do anything, right? You can't profit when the people are reaping huge profits at scale. And then of course they're buying houses, right? And then leaving them empty, which is like jacking up the market. So they're restricting the supply and raising the price floor. And then I feel like, I don't know this for sure, but I think a lot of these private equity firms are also investing in all the future AI shit that is going to then increase the value of the stocks as companies replace human beings with robots. And then you have Citizens United, where now you have super PACs that are basically like private equity to like buy the politicians. And we're all just left holding the bag. And, you know, it's pretty brutal, right? It is pretty brutal, dude. It is pretty brutal that, like, right? You know, infinite income, you know, infinite income. You have $1,000 out of your 3 adult children. They refuse to have kids. All right, let's go. Hey man, I don't think my son wants to have kids, but I didn't want to have kids when I was 20. That can change. I mean, I never intended on having a kid. My kid was accidental, but he was good, right? It was good for me. Bleak. So let's dance. Dude, we can do a dance party goal. Let's get it going, dude. Let's go, baby. Dude, the Dirty 30. Let's go, dude. I love it. We get it. Dude, we will dance tonight. All right, so we're going to cover some shit, guys. Your niece is 20? Yeah, I imagine at 20, like now, if people do have kids, it's going to be later. right? You know what I'm saying? Should be able to file for bankruptcy, get a 0% loan, right? Well, you know what's funny about this, guys? Here's what I take from the people, the corporations as people. Ella, let's go. I find it interesting that corporations are people when it comes to getting these tax breaks, when it comes to getting, you know, the political ability to be able to buy politicians and invest all that money. But man, when it comes to like corporations engaging in employee theft or abusing their employees, they don't get treated like people then, where the people running those corporations go to jail for their crimes. I mean, isn't that interesting? It's like they get treated like people with the way they can spend their money, but they don't get treated like people in them having any real accountability. And that I guess is the real danger of the corporation is the, you know, when you have a board, you know, making these decisions where the corporation is making the decisions, it's sort of exempting the people at the corporation from responsibility for what happens. And that shit is brutal, right? It is brutal. Like, I feel like the people on corporate boards and the people running companies should be responsible, like personally, okay? They should not have immunity. You know, the corporation becomes this entity. I mean, that's the whole reason why you do an LLC, right? That it's limited liability corporation, okay? You incorporate so you have no personal liability. And once you do that, right, they can sue the company, but you are like scot-free. You have no responsibility. It is, again, it's a system that allows people to be abusive with an entity, and then they have no personal responsibility for the end result. Okay, the entity is the thing that can get sued, and if the entity runs out of money, there's nothing you can take from it. Overturn Citizens United and tax the churches, both good ideas. Okay. And yeah, no, well, their LLC is not a publicly traded company, right? That's completely different. Like now, I mean, they are also corporations where you can't sue the people. You're suing the corporation itself. They are corporate entities, but they're a little different because they have a board of directors. Like anybody can be an LLC, okay? If you have your own business, you can make it an LLC, so you're protected. Nobody can take your house or your own personal assets, okay? And you know, but public is like even different. Like the thing about public is once a company has publicly traded stock, then the company its sole purpose is to increase the value of that stock, which is like, you know, now not only does that thing have the corporate liability protections, but now it ceases to function as a business and it only functions as a stock profit generating machine. Okay. So that board sits down and they make decisions and they don't give a fuck about the employees, the company, the brand. They are just there to elevate the stock price, whether it means like firing employees, you know, like cutting off supply lines, you know, restricting the supply, like doesn't matter. They could do whatever, sell off the real estate, right? Allow a corporate takeover, allow themselves to be rated like look at what they did with Twitter, right? Look at Jack, okay, with Twitter. I mean, that's a classic example. Dude, hold on. Wrench Rabbit says they'll never repeal Citizens United. U.S. is already fascist. Need to focus more on organizing resistance. Now is the time. Stop stupidity. Let's go. Let's go, baby. La resistance. Wrench Rabbit, do it. Dude, viva la resistance. Set it up. JD Christie. So Twitter is a classic example. Okay. Twitter was a public company. Okay. It was like Jack, the leadership, public company. It had a mission, but Jack, of course, wanted to do blue sky. He wanted to do this new thing, right? That was going to be more like, you know, you get to take your handle with you everywhere you go, this futuristic shit. So he essentially wanted out. But then when Elon made this ridiculous offer, they basically like hamstringed Elon into having to do that offer, and they forced a sale because of the amount of money that was being offered. So they forced that simply to provide stock benefits and a cash out. And then that allowed Jack to go off and do his new project, you know? And that's brutal, guys. That is like just brutal. It is just the absolute pursuit of stock dividends. It's so nasty, guys. And 10% of the country owns 93% of the stock. Pinky, let's go. Dude, 10% of the country owns 93% of the stock. You like Blue Sky? See, it's interesting because I have a mixed relationship with Blue Sky because I don't hate Blue Sky, but I don't like Jack, okay? I don't like that Jack sold out Twitter and sold out the like left wing. Like Jack set us up so he could start his own thing. And so for me, part of me doesn't want to support Blue Sky because I don't want to support Jack in what he did with Twitter. You know, like I don't necessarily want his new venture to succeed because I feel like he threw us all under the bus. And so I have a complicated relationship with it. I mean, I like, you know, I've always liked Twitter, but you know, and I know that if you have a mental health issue with Twitter, like Blue Sky's the obvious choice because it's way better over there, like for your brain, right? But I like my brain in the toxicity, in the muck, in the chaos. I live in that kind of nasty chaos. So I abhor what Twitter has become, but I operate really well in that type of degenerate. I mean, I grew up in a household that was essentially as toxic as Twitter, right? So I grew up in that shit, but I'm still mad at Jack. I am, dude. I still am mad at him for what he did. Eat the rich. Let's go, Lucy Lou's mom. Whoa. By the way, Lucy Lou's mom, I don't know if you know this, but somebody in a YouTube comment a couple of days ago was watching one of the lives and they heard me commenting about your name, Lucy Lou's mom, and they actually left a comment saying that is the coolest handle ever, right? Lucy Lou's mom is the coolest handle ever, right? But dude, I do like to get amongst it. I like to get in the dirt, right? Twitter's 75 to 80% bots. It's a lot of bots. And you know, all of social media is, though, guys. Let me just tell you, the bots, you know, it started with Facebook, okay? Facebook was the original bot platform, and they do it. I mean, they had bots that would just interact so they could sell advertising, okay? They sell like low-grade advertising to people, and you just get bot traffic, all right? And you know, they've been doing that, and Facebook's been doing that for a while. They sort of invented the bot game because it allows them to, because there are some people that are not like big business that don't need a return. They are just trying to grow their profile. So Facebook, like if you buy the promote shit on TikTok or the promote shit on Instagram or Twitter, you're just going to get bot traffic because you're just looking for likes and engagement. And so they make money off that shit with people who just want to buy fake engagement and get some likes and get some followers or whatever. But dude, that shit, Facebook like pioneered that stuff where they would, depending on what tier of advertising you were, you would get bot traffic, you know? Let's go. Dude, that's why we know we're going to win the midterms. Bots can't vote. Dude, dance party, 𝗙cie𝗶𝗶, let's go. Dude, I will say this, guys. I don't use Facebook anymore. And I, not so much because of the toxicity. I mean, there's definitely like toxicity involved, but I left Facebook because of the length of the post, because everybody on Facebook does like 75 paragraph posts. And it's like, dude, if you reply to somebody on Facebook, they're going to write you like a dissertation. And it's just, you could spend all day interacting with one human being. I don't know how they write that shit, dude. It is redonkulous. Facebook is fucking ridiculous, dude. You reply one line to somebody and they write you 17 paragraphs. Dude, love y'all. This is the best place to be. Stop stupidity. Yes, it is. Dude, Ella says, Pine Box. Pine Box. There won't be any midterms. Dude, there's midterms. Dude, zombie, shut it. Zip it. There's going to be midterms. They want people like you to run around saying there's not going to be midterms so people will get apathetic and not do the work. But we don't buy into that shit here, right? You watch. There's going to be midterms and the Democrats are going to win them, okay? That's my call. And if not, there's going to be some type of revolt, okay? I think. Like, that's my prediction there, right? Dude, Facebook used to be great. It used to, zombie. You're not wrong, dude. Facebook, MySpace. I'm telling you, MySpace was crazy, okay? Like, I watched MySpace, guys. So let me tell you the MySpace story, and then we're going to go in and we're going to hit the politics, okay? And we got some shit to cover. But so MySpace was connected to the music, okay? We had just come off Friendster, but Friendster was more of a dating site. Friendster had that dating ick to it, okay? So it had a creep factor. But then MySpace was about music, and it was about friendship, and it was about people personalizing their profiles. And so MySpace became a lot more about community based around music or art or Tumblr or what have you, okay? It was like that. There were a lot of different communities. But in particular, guys, I watched the MySpace music thing, like I watched it disintegrate. Because when you went in early in 2003, okay, 2003 MySpace, you could book a tour using MySpace. You could reach out to somebody in Oklahoma and say, hey, here's my music. They check out your profile. You get to know them. You'd know them for a couple months. They'd find local bands for you. You go to Oklahoma. You'd hang out with them and you'd party with them. You'd play a show and then you'd keep up the friendship. I had friends, guys and girls, all over the country from 2003 on via MySpace. I had people regionally in Lansing, Michigan, in Oklahoma City, in Boise, there was Cincinnati that would help me like book regional legs of tours. So I was able to develop a national network of people that were like friends. Some of them were girlfriends, and some of them were like people that love my music and were connected to their local scene, and they would help me book regional legs. And it was great. It was amazing. But it was like personalized. Like what I used to do is I would have a paragraph of like the details in a copy paste, but I would personalize every note with the first paragraph was me typing to them. And then I would copy and paste like a details and then sign off. But it was all personal and connected. But then what happened is all of us that did this, that were on the front, had a real wave of success. So by the time you get to the middle to late 2004, okay, early 2005, a whole bunch of us were touring the country and having a great deal of success, okay? And it was amazing. And communities were being built and fostered, okay? Now, what happened is is right around that time, it became like everyone was like, oh, like you can book your band through MySpace. And so then what ended up happening is now you would go and you would open up your MySpace and you would have like 20 spam posts from people you'd never met that didn't like develop a relationship with you at all, that were literally just spamming you. I need a show. I need a show. I need a show. I need a show. And then so because of that, those of us that actually reached out and made personal connections, we ended up having the door closed on us too. Because what ended up happening is people got so inundated with random bands like asking for shit without developing a relationship that pretty soon the people that did develop relationships got like cut off. Nobody was responding to anybody anymore. And it became everybody was broadcasting, but nobody was receiving. And that's the thing that's really hard is you can't, if you don't have people receiving, the broadcasting becomes worthless, okay? And this is what happens, you know, like to most things, is initially people use them and they develop relationships and they develop community, and then people who are trying to get fame or money or like favors done come in and try to exploit that system, and then it ruins it for the community builders. Okay. And it gets really, really bad. And dude, MySpace happened like that in like 1 year, guys. Okay. It happened in 1 year. It went from like this paradise to literally you if you didn't already have a network out there, you weren't building shit because you were just inundated with a bunch of shitty bands like asking for shit, right? Because the key with MySpace was in the beginning, you didn't ask for shit, okay? If you were going on tour, you just started messaging people and maybe just asking them a question of like, where do bands play in your town if they're my style of music? You didn't ask them to do anything for you, right? You didn't say, hey, I need your help booking a show. You just said, I'm booking shows. Where do bands play? Where do you go see bands, right? And they're not doing anything but telling you about the things that they love. And then you do the work, you know, and then eventually maybe they decide to help you out. But it became like cut and paste. Please help. Please help. I need a show. Get me a show. And it was crazy. It was like hundreds of bands doing this shit. And it just got decimated. Bro, I never watched anything end so fast, right? No, I missed a couple. I'm going to go back. I was in the middle of my story. And so now we're going to go back and get them. I missed like 3. Dude, states control voting, not federal. Yes, JD, let's go. Dude, then we got Leslie, keeping it real. Let's go. I love it. I love the stickers. A snoozer. Let's go. And stop stupidity. Let's go. Appreciate you. Oh! Dude, MySpace is a bummer, dude. It was so good. And Wrench Rabbit said, you have a song you play at intros. I love it, but I can't find it on any of your stuff. Some lyrics like my heart's unbreaking. Need that, Wrench Rabbit. Yeah, that is Radiant, and that will be available. You'll be able to buy that on CD later this year. Okay, it's coming. Stop stupidity. Let's go. All right. It will be hopefully by summer. All right. We should have that. All right. I'm going to have the website set up. I'm going to have a P.O. box. You're going to be able to send me shit. And you're going to be able to get that music. Oh. Let's go. Dude, it's a good track. Yeah, that is from Number 3 Breakdown. My band, 2003, right? It's good shit. That was my band right before the Wanteds. It was an epic band. Right? Dude, it was a great band. We had managers and like, you know, they were trying to get us a record deal. I just didn't love the music. I love that song, like the 3 songs on that demo, but then we had a whole album of shit and I just wasn't feeling the vibe. It was hard. I was ready to go do my own thing. There was like an age difference between me and the drummer. I was like 34 and he was like 21, right? He was a really good drummer, but there was a generational thing that we couldn't get beyond. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted a level of seriousness and dedication from him that like a 21-year-old couldn't provide. I mean, they could have if he was a 21-year-old who wanted to be a professional touring musician. But I think he just liked, you know, he had family pressures to be a career guy and a family man. So he didn't want that thing. So he couldn't be what I wanted him to be. And like, so it was, he just wanted to have a good time, right? So sad you got to wait. Well, you can watch it in the beginning of streams, right? You just dial up a stream, like bookmark a stream that has it, and you can listen to it every day in the beginning, right? 𝗙𝗡𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗀, who are my first inspirational musically? I mean, we can talk about that later. We got to get into some politics. I don't really know who my first were. I mean, probably Kiss, I think, was my first big one. Okay, T-minus 9 minutes. Let's get it. All right, we'll talk while we get this. We got 9 minutes to get the dance party. So we'll talk. So my first big music inspiration was Kiss. Okay, definitely Kiss. And that got to me in the 3rd grade. Stop stupidity. Let's go. Right? I mean, I had access to a lot of music because I had older brothers and sisters. So some of my old, like, Kiss was my personal favorite, but the other stuff that I kind of overdosed on when I was a young person was ELO. I was a huge fan of ELO, Mr. Blue Sky. And like, I used to listen to ELO endlessly. I really loved Rod Stewart. Okay. I like, against my will, I was exposed to all the country music. Okay. Even before that, my parents took me to see Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn and all of the country music artists, you know, whatever, Tammy Wynette. So I was forced to do that and I hated it. But years later, when I turned 30, I bought a country music collection. I was like, oh my God, I actually had quite a connection to that shit. Okay. And, but Kiss was the big one, and ELO, trying to think of who else. I had a Black Sabbath 8-track as well, and the Eagles. I had the Eagles. We, believe it or not, my older brothers and shit did not listen to a lot of the Beatles. Like, I got into the Beatles later, okay? My older brothers and sisters were not really into the Beatles. I think they had rebelled against the Beatles. I mean, I will say this, a lot of people had animosity towards the Beatles. AC, let's go! Because of the shit that they did when they said they were bigger than Jesus. Like, a lot of people like burned their records and shit. They lost a lot of fans, dude. Fan of Cinderella at all? Not really. I don't think I'd even know Cinderella. Right? And Elvis, I did like Elvis, but I'm trying to think of what else in the 70s that was big. And then my own personal, like, one of the first bands I got into, like, the first concert I saw where I bought the tickets was Quiet Riot with, it was in 9th grade, Quiet Riot with, Ronnie James Dio's Black Sabbath, okay? It was Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio and Quiet Riot. And I actually bought the tickets for that show in Milwaukee. And I bought my sister's boyfriend a ticket, and he got me a t-shirt and drove me to Milwaukee. So I bought them concert tickets in exchange for a ride and a story. And then I went to California, and we moved back to California. And then I went through an Oingo Boingo phase. And I got heavily into the British rock, Echo and the Bunnymen, and The Cure, and, Psychedelic Furs, and, Simple Minds, and definitely all of those 80s British bands. And, Echo and the Bunnymen was like a huge favorite. A little bit of The Clash, but not so much. They had a little bit of a rockabilly thing that I didn't super love, right? But Echo and the Bunnymen was my favorite, and The Smiths. And then I I went through everybody went through a Guns N' Roses phase when Appetite came out. Like the whole world listened to that record. And Susie was a big one for me too. And New Order and Depeche Mode, all those bands in the 80s. I saw all of them in concert too. But then what sort of like blasted me into the stratosphere was Jane's Addiction. Okay, I had been on the Guns N' Roses tip, and then like everybody was. And then when I heard Jane's Addiction's Nothing Shocking, my life changed. And that's when I quit college and bought a guitar. And like that was the band more than anything that redefined my relationship with music and led me to becoming a musician was Jane's Addiction. Dude, John Lennon was just saying they were more popular than Jesus. And in a lot of countries and with the youth, that was true. No, it absolutely was true, Lou. Oh, he was right. Like the way people mobbed him and shit, it was crazy. That comment was more about the people and how fucking fanatic the people were. But like, dude, the people then held it against them because I don't think they liked that mirror being held up. And they freaked out like most religious people do when you ask them to take personal responsibility. 10 and 5. Let's go stop stupidity. 10 more. Let's get it. But dude, he was not wrong. Prince was good. Yeah, man. So that's it. That was my thing. Now we have 3 minutes to get these last 7, and then we're gonna go. And then I got into all the things 90s. But like, so what happened is like I said, my role in my friend group, stop stupidity, let's go. My role in my friend group was I was the music discoverer. Okay, so I used to watch like 120 minutes. I used to scour MTV. I used to read music magazines, Rolling Stone. Dude, Ella, let's go. I used to listen to college radio like KXLU and Rodney on the Rock, and I would discover the new bands or go out and see bands and see the touring bands. Stop stupidity. And then I would make tapes for all my friends and introduce them to the bands that were going to be like really well known like 6 months or a year later. So my friends were like, they used to check in with me about like, what do you got kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? Dude, let's go. LL, let's go. Stop stupidity, let's go. That was my role in the 90s, late 80s and into the 90s was the music discovery machine. The Minutemen, dude, those guys were local. Dude, fucking Boone, right? LFG, let's go. Go, let's go. There it is. Oh my God, dude. Just like that, dude. That shit is crazy. Dude, let's go. Yeah, that was my, dude, yeah, Long Beach, San Pedro, those guys, the Minutemen, and then fucking, like, I feel like all Henry Rollins, all those fucking sort of scenesters, those were all those kinds of guys. Dude, ML, let's go. Right? Political punk rocks. We do rock. Dude, it's funny too, because you ready for this? So this is my last thing. I went down a rabbit hole the other night because one of my favorite albums when I was like, I don't know, 20, right? One of my favorite albums was Hole's first album, okay? Before Live Through This, Courtney Love had a record called Pretty on the Inside, okay? And it was like grungy, chuggy, screaming, grindy, okay? It was really like almost like the band Failure, like super dirty. And it was my favorite fucking record. It was so good. Pretty on the Inside. Oh my God, dude, it was amazing. Here, right? There's the fucking cover, the album, right? There it is. This was it. This was the album. Oh my God, that was their first album, dude. It was my favorite fucking record, dude. I love them so much, okay? And this was like huge for me. It was huge, right? This was a really good album. And it was like, it was really revolutionary because there were no girl singers like that. She had like a throat shredding scream, and it was like really aggressive lyrics about, like rock and roll and sex industry kind of stuff, right? Just good shit. Love that record. So check this out though, guys. You ready for this? So, not too long ago, I was watching Mazzy Star on Conan, okay? On Conan O'Brien. And you ready for this? This is crazy. So I was watching Mazzy Star on Conan O'Brien, and I noticed the bass player, right? Which you can't really see her. Here, I'm going to turn off the sound, but we'll go to the video without the sound. So let me just show you this so we can't hear it. But so I noticed if you watch this video of when Mazzy Star first appeared on live TV, right? The first thing you'll notice is the bass tone. Okay, I want to show the bass player. Let me find the bass player. They don't really show her much, but the bass tone of this woman right here is like the fattest bass tone that you can imagine. Okay, I was watching this and I was like, God damn, bro, that bass player is like the tone. Like, holy shit, bro. Is like the juiciest, biggest, just like incredible bass. I mean, the song is pretty slow, so there's room for it to just resonate. There's space for it. But you know what's funny? I did a deep dive, and she is the bassist in fucking Hole. She was the bassist on that record. And so, dude, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that she left right after Pretty on the Inside when Kristen Pfaff came in, and then she joined Mazzy Star. And like, dude, it was so weird. I was like, oh my God, I love her fucking bass tone. And Jill Emery. And then I'm like, oh my God, dude, she was the bass player on my favorite band. And I had this little like reunion with myself, you know? Dude, isn't it funny how that shit works? It was after stream one night when I should have been editing, but instead I was watching Mazzy Star videos at fucking 4 a.m, right? Oh, shit. He had Alice in Chains tickets. I saw Alice in Chains several times. Oh, dude, crazy. All right, politics, boss. We got to look at some shit real fast. You ready? Look at this, bro. This is one of the first things we got to look at here, okay? Which is there's some Epstein emails, guys, okay, regarding Virginia. Okay, now this is interesting. Okay, this is interesting for a number of reasons. Okay, this is an email that was discovered, but look at the date. It's 2011. Okay, it is from Jeffrey Epstein to a guy named William Riley, who was a private investigator. Now, what's unusual about this is supposedly the Sasha Riley thing had said there was a William Riley who was his dad. So this is a little confusing to me that this is like another William Riley that is not related to that, or maybe it is related to that, or, you know, fucking, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's significant. Dude, Miles, TV on the radio is good shit, boss. I met Tunde, and he's a really fucking nice guy. Dude, I have a good TV on the radio story, but I'm not going to tell it now. You'll have to tune in at another date. But I saw them in New York City before they signed to Touch and Go. And then I met him in Portland like a couple years later when he was on tour. It was good dude, but good band. Anyway, though, so this is just really interesting, okay? Because look at what Epstein says here, okay? Epstein says he's writing to a private investigator, and he says, before I call Trump, with regard to Virginia, are there any other alternatives? Right? Now, think about the ramifications of this. Because number one, Donald Trump is trying to say, oh, in 2006, he was a whistleblower. He called the cops, right? That's his story. I found out Epstein was a creep. I called the police. I kicked him out of my club because he was dirty. But, dude, this is 2011, and Epstein is talking to a private investigator about Virginia and calling Trump and wondering if there are any other alternatives. But, like, we don't know what he's calling about. And look at the time. It's 12:33 a.m. It's late at night. It's almost 1 a.m. And Epstein is, like, sending this email, okay? And you know what I mean? But like, why is he calling, right? Why is he calling Trump? Why is Trump involved in this? What is this connection? And why is it 5 years after Trump supposedly had nothing to do with Epstein that Epstein is still, is still like talking to Trump? We do need more data. And people are trying to sort of figure out what this is, and what exactly is going on with this. There is some more information about this. All right. But there is some deep fucking, let me find the other one, the other message, okay? There was somebody who talked a little bit differently. Now, all right. Now, of course, we do have Virginia's statement where this was an early one of her explaining what her role was. Okay.
I was trafficked to a lot of types of different men. I was trafficked to other billionaires. I was trafficked to politicians, professors, even royalty. He used me as a form of blackmail. So, these people would owe him favors. I was so utterly mortified. I was like, this guy's watching me go to the toilet. He's watching everything that happens in the massage room. He's watching me in my bedroom. He's, like, everything's being recorded. And that's when I realized that's how he's getting away with blackmailing everybody. Biggest reason in my mind was because he wanted to always have something on someone just in case he needed it. Why it's important that the media and the government work hand in hand to try to uncover who was involved to the highest level of people in our government and even in international government.
See, what I think about her comments there, okay? What I think about her comments there that is really interesting is the angle, okay? Where it's not like Epstein, it's not like people were coming to Epstein, hey, can you get me a girl? I mean, Elon was, right? Elon Musk, oh, I want to go to the wildest party. They're like, dude, shut the fuck up, you nerd. But it's not like people were coming to him to get women. I think it was more like he was having women go to these guys and like offer them a service, oh, they're going to go massage him. And then there's a little hanky panky. And then he's got something on them afterwards. Okay. And so there were most certainly people who did come for the hookup. Absolutely. But I think other guys were like, were getting sort of, I think he was trying to rope people in with it, right? If I can get them, maybe he cajoled them into it. Now, that doesn't absolve the people who did it from responsibility, of course, because they're sick fucks hooking up with these young people, right? But my point being is that I don't think he was running a service like 𝗙𝗢𝗡𝗍 was, okay? 𝗙𝗢𝗡 was running a service. And I think Jeffrey Epstein was mostly about satiating his own degenerate impulses and then using the tools of his own impulses, the girls around him, to then like do his best to entrap people or coerce other people to participate in whatever way, shape, and form. And then once he had them, they were like ensnared. And then he could activate, favors or special advantages or what have you out of them, or, right? And then when you think about it, if he does it with certain people in the government, then it prevents the FBI from even looking into this. And he certainly had friends in high places, because think about this, guys, okay? Think about the Bill Clinton trip, okay? And because Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker, like Bill Clinton had been president of the United States, and Kevin Spacey in the early 2000s was as famous of an actor as anyone on the planet, okay? These guys are like very visible, powerful international figures. And it was literally Jeffrey Epstein that was opening doors for Bill Clinton's charity in Africa, okay? Jeffrey Epstein was introducing the former president of the United States to power figures in Africa, okay? That is how, like, when the president of the United States is going to some random dude in New York City and Palm Beach that doesn't even have a fucking job, and he's going to that guy to get connections on the African continent, in order to start his charity, which to whatever, Clinton did some good shit with that, okay? The Clinton Foundation went and helped millions of lives in Africa, okay? So if there was one good thing that came out of this mess, at least that happened, that a bunch of people got helped in Africa. But to think that the president of a country like the U.S. is making connections through Epstein is pretty mind-blowing, okay? Like, he was above the president, okay? You know what I'm saying? He was above the president, guys. Like, that's big, okay? And somebody said the real deep state, it really is. Like, that's just it. Like, you know how Trump and all his cronies talk about, the deep state, the deep state, the deep state. I think Trump is the deep state. I think Trump and Epstein and Netanyahu and Ehud Barak and the Russian oligarchs, if there's a deep state, Deutsche Bank, it's those guys. Jamie Dimon, right? These fucking, these American bankers and Bill Gates and Elon and Peter Thiel. It is literally all those guys are the fucking deep state, okay? It is, right? I think the deep state is what got Trump elected. And the deep state, you could even just say the surveillance state, but I think they're like above the U.S. law enforcement. You know what I mean? I think they're above the U.S. law enforcement. I think realistically, if you looked, they make it seem like there's these hidden members of government, of the rank and file government, that are like overruling everyone. But I don't think so. I think the rank and file people in government are trying to do governmental jobs. And I think it's people higher up in the power structure that are in the pocket of like these guys these like massive money movers that are really the ones, pulling the strings. And I don't think they necessarily control everything, guys, right? It's not like the deep state is controlling the show like puppets. I think they just have vast amounts of influence. That's what it is. Like, I think they have a network of people that they can make like a court case disappear. They can make a person disappear. They can make charges disappear, or they can make a scene that attracts all the national news attention. So this other thing sort of like disappears. And it's, I don't think it's controlling in as much as it's manipulating, because if they had control, like, we would have never found out about this, okay? And we found out about it because they don't actually have control. They just have influence. But the influence doesn't always work because, you know what I'm saying? Because eventually a rank and file person can be a whistleblower, or somebody like Virginia Giuffre decided to sue, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell and create a public record. And then pretty soon they were all getting deposed. And then like I think their influence has eroded over time. Whereas like when you have control, it's more like Vladimir Putin, where he's bulletproof, okay? Like Vladimir Putin is not like influencing the government. He literally owns it. And anybody disobeys Vladimir Putin at any level of the government, and they, right? Like, you know, in Russia, in Vladimir Putin's world, somebody like Gavin Newsom would end up jumping out of a high office building, okay? That's how it would work in Russia. Gavin Newsom, like, makes his knee pad commercial, and next thing you know, the headline is Gavin Newsom, you know, unalives himself by jumping out of the 52nd story of the building, right? That's how it happens in Russia, right? And here it's like, that's not happening, okay? Trump is going to try and, like, you know, weaponize the National Guard, or he'll make some fake charges, he'll investigate them. But it's a little different when you control it. You can do that outlandish shit because the news media is not going to question you in Russia because it's run by Putin. And and none of the police or anybody in Russia will question Putin because all of that is like his, right? So that's, I think, the difference between control and influence. Is influence isn't absolute, okay? It's not. It you know, it's not. But so this is pretty damning, okay? So, and let's look though, okay, you ready? Let's look at this video because I think this video is important. This is an oldie but goodie, okay? But let's put this on the timeline of the Trump Virginia thing, all right? And so watch this.
Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. Just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Okay, so the reporter's question, it's kind of hard to hear, but the reporter's question was, were some of the girls Epstein took from Mar-a-Lago? You said Epstein had stolen some of your workers. Were some of them young women?
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were. Yes, they were young. Yeah.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs in the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine, and then not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
All right, now he's covering his ass, but here's the situation of this email, okay? So let me set up my windows here for a minute because we're going to run through Trump here because he has a significant timeline issue that is starting to cave in on him. Okay. So what we have here is we have Donald Trump, this is last year, admitting that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women, young women, out of Mar-a-Lago. Okay? That's what he admits. And he says, you know who they are, which means in the very beginning, he was referring to Virginia Giuffre. She is obviously the most well-known one. Now, the problem for him is he's trying to make it seem like, hey, when I found out she trafficked this guy, or when I found out he trafficked some girls from my spa, I was like, you got it. Don't do this. You're getting shit canned. I'm kicking you out. And now they're trying to spawn it into this tight little wrapped bow of a story where Trump went and called the police to like say, good job getting Epstein. He was real problematic in 2006 after Bradley Edwards was involved as the lawyer and the cops had already arrested Epstein. And then Trump comes in. He knows he's going to be investigated. So he decides to ward off the investigation by being a participating party. Hey, it's Mr. Trump. I heard you got him. Ghislaine's evil, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but the problem is the timeline, okay? Because Virginia Giuffre got trafficked in 2000, okay? 2000. Donald Trump supposedly made that phone call to the police in 2006, okay? So there's 6 years in between Virginia being trafficked and him calling the police, and it's only after Epstein's been arrested. So that's number one, okay, is that 6-year span is a big problem for Trumpy. Now, the other problem is that Jeffrey Epstein paid off Virginia Giuffre's dad, okay? He paid him off. So Virginia Giuffre's dad knew she was trafficked. Now, another problem is that Virginia Giuffre's dad worked at Mar-a-Lago that entire time, okay? That's how Virginia got the job. Her dad was a groundskeeper. And Virginia and her dad and Donald Trump had like spoken to one another. That's how she got the job. He knew who Virginia was. Here he's acting like, yeah, I think she was in the spa. He knew she was in the spa. He knew her dad. Her dad was like a long-running employee. And in fact, her dad was also an abuser, which means they probably really liked each other. Like abusers have a way of just sort of like recognizing the stench of each other. If you put two grapists in a room together, they will just get along magically. They can they find each other, dude. It's gross. Okay. So this whole thing, I mean, Trumpy's like not superpower is he can't keep his mouth shut. Okay. This guy just can't keep his mouth shut. He can't not flap his gums. So if you get him talking, eventually he's going to sink himself. Okay, because he literally just loves the sound of his own voice, right? And he thinks like, oh, I'll just like talk my way out of everything here. So this is a problem. Now, where we get extra deep is there's 2 more layers to this, because number one, we have now 5 years after Trump was supposedly a whistleblower. Now, like, Epstein's going to call Trump regarding to Virginia, right? Or regarding whatever they're talking about. Now, I want to see when Virginia, her first, when the Mirror article appeared. Oh, look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at the timing of this. Okay, this is what I thought. The Daily Mail. Okay, so Virginia Giuffre's first major media appearance, okay, including the photograph of Prince Andrew, appeared on February 27th of 2011. Okay, so Virginia Giuffre told her story to 𝗙ecie was the writer, Sharon Crutcher, okay? And she goes public with her story. The British tabloid about Prince Andrew gave them the photograph that ties her to Ghislaine and Epstein and how she was trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. February 27, 2011. Look at the date of this email. April 18th of 2011. So this is like a month after. So which means the reason why Epstein's talking to an investigator is after that article came out. Epstein hired William Riley, the private investigator, to look into Virginia, to character assassinate, to look for a way to like distance himself from the story, to damage her, blah, blah, blah. But now he's like, before I call Trump regarding Virginia, are there other alternatives? Okay. So he's like talking to Trump in 2011 about, are they getting their story straight? Is he discovering something that's going to be bad? Like, I've got bad news for Trump. But obviously here, this is showing you that whatever went down with Virginia Giuffre in 2000, whatever was revealed in that Daily Mail article, after Epstein hires an investigator, he's now got to loop Trump in here, okay? He had to loop Trump in. Now, it could be him asking for Trump's help in burying her, okay? It could be asking, we don't know. But the fact that he is looping him in and the fact that a phone call occurred, right? And you know, I mean, we know they stayed in touch. Trump says they didn't. Excuse me. But we know they did. Now, I want to just fast forward here for a minute, okay? I want to fast forward here for a minute for one other thing that I think is important. That is this email. Let me see. Epstein, Trump. Ready? Is this email. Okay, right here. This one. I'm going to save it so I can zoom in. All right, you ready? This email is like incredibly important, guys. Okay? Look at this one. All right? This one is very damning. I'm including it right now because of the timeliness. But look what it says. It says, come to visit the island, new administration people visiting. Okay? Come to visit the island, new administration people visiting. Okay, but look at the date. Okay, first off, it's from Giuffre to Bill Gates, and look at the date. December 20th, 2016. So this email, 5 years after Epstein is talking to Trump about Virginia Giuffre and about that Daily Mail article, now Epstein is messaging Bill Gates to say, hey, bro, Trump had won the presidency. This is a month to the day before Trump is getting inaugurated. He says, come to the island. New administration people are visiting. At this point, you know Bannon is one of them, obviously, but like we don't know who else is the administration people, right? Who could that be? It's Bannon. It could be Trump. Maybe it's probably not Trump at this point. He's got to be super careful. But it was most certainly Bannon, right? You know what I mean? And so this is what's really like, okay, right? It's you know what I mean? Like there's two things, okay? Because not only is it, you know, Giuffre saying to Bill Gates, come out here, but it is like Giuffre, like basically saying, I still have some pull inside the administration. Well, so 𝗙𝗎𝗍, I don't know about William Barr because William Barr was not the attorney general. Okay, there was an attorney general before William Barr. You had Jeff Sessions. Okay, William Barr came in later, came in halfway through the term. Okay, but we don't know. Maybe William Barr was like in the background. Okay, but we know it was definitely Bannon. And, you know, it could have been other people. It could have been Roger Stone. It could have been, you know, I don't know, Mike Flynn. It could have been anybody. It could have been somebody involved with, like, you know, Cambridge Analytica, 𝗙ecie𝗶𝗆𝗆, right? Remember this guy? Right? Brad 𝗙ecie𝗶𝗆𝗆, the guy who was like their data manipulator. Okay, this guy, does he have an Epstein connection? I wonder if he's mentioned. He included, so 𝗙ecie𝗶𝗆𝗆 was mentioned. He was Trump's campaign manager in 2020, but he was also involved in Trump's like data thing in 2016. Okay. I believe, what did he do in 2016? Okay, he was the digital media director for 2016. Okay, and then he became Trump's campaign manager later. So he was probably one of those guys, the digital media guy. Could have been Michael Cohen. Absolutely could have been Michael Cohen. It could have been any members of the Heritage Foundation. I mean, but we know it was people like we know through this email, right? I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to bring up this one. We know through this email that even in 2016, Epstein was still inside the Trump White House. Okay. He was still connected to Trump. They were still, maybe he was connecting through people. Okay. But, right? You know what I'm saying? You know? But he was inside the White House. Yeah, Miles. So the William Riley in the email is a private investigator in Florida. So yeah, I mean that name being the same is weird, but it is definitely a different William. But so that, guys, is the timeline problem that we have for Donald Trump. Okay, we have a serious timeline problem. Okay, and then you remember seeing this photo. Okay, this was after Virginia was trafficked. Let's see the Getty photos. Naomi Campbell. Let's see the date on this. /31st birthday party. 2001. Okay. Let me get rid of that. That's going to fucking kill my browser, dude. All right. There we go. So this was 2001. Okay. So Virginia Giuffre, right? Virginia Giuffre gets trafficked in 2000. In 2001, she's meeting Prince Andrew. She is at Naomi Campbell's birthday party, just a kid wearing her little outfit here. These end up on Getty Images. Okay. 2005, Epstein gets arrested. 2006, Trump says, oh, you got him. Good. Colleen's evil. I didn't do anything. Right. 2011, she goes public, and now Epstein is talking to Trump. They're private investigating her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, 2016, Epstein's like, hey, Bill Gates, let's go talk to people of the new administration. Okay. And yeah, you can see her. She's like, what is this girl? Like, what's this girl doing here at my party, bro? Right? You know what I mean? It's pretty wild. So dude, Trump has a massive timeline problem, guys. Okay? Okay? You know what I mean? Like, Trump has a massive timeline problem, a huge timeline problem here. Okay? And that, guys, okay, this is and this right here, I don't know if you remember this article. This article here was another one because in 2003, they sent a spa worker to Epstein, even though it was well known that this guy was a creep. Trump was outsourcing spa workers to go massage Giuffre at his house, even though he would expose himself to them. And so there was, after 3 years after Virginia gets trafficked, Mar-a-Lago was sending girls to Epstein's house. Okay? And one of them had a significant issue with this, even though it was well known. Yeah, he might, pull it out. Like, don't worry about it. He's just a creeper, right? Dude, I mean, Trump has a huge, this guy has a huge timeline issue, okay? And so, I mean, the obvious situation here, guys, is that we know that Trump knew the whole time, okay? And here's what's crazy, though, guys, is this is all happening after they were friends, okay? This is after they were friends. So Trump was friends with Epstein from the 80s. I don't know when they first met. I think it was in the mid 80s, early to mid 80s. Epstein was in New York. He was had moved from the Dalton School to Bear Stearns. He started working for Les Wexner, and he was in the center of the finance bros in New York City. And so then, Trump knew Epstein early on and knew Ghislaine Maxwell. This was before Robert Maxwell died. Trump knew Robert Maxwell, had been on the yacht, Lady Ghislaine, multiple times. Trump was totally in that set of people, okay? Then what ended up happening was Trump and Ivana break up, and then Trump and Epstein became besties in the 90s. This was when Ghislaine was dating Jeffrey Epstein, and this was all through the 90s. And 96 is when Maria Farmer calls the FBI about Epstein and Trump, and then Trump had his modeling agency at the end of the 90s, right? Trump Models. So then they were doing the modeling agency. I mean, they were all friends with John Casablancas, who owned Elite Models, which was the biggest modeling agency in New York. Okay, there was Ford Models. There were a whole bunch of modeling agencies. Then Trump started his own modeling agency. Then in the 2000s, Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel started their own modeling agency. So all of this with Virginia Giuffre, all of this happened after he was friends. Okay, he was friends and very close to Jeffrey, but then they kind of became a little bit distant, I think, when they trafficked Virginia. Trump didn't stop, hanging out with him or anything. He didn't stop knowing him, but I think Trump started getting gun shy because at that time he had the private club and he was he couldn't disappear, right? Trump was becoming a figure in Palm Beach with the club, and this guy that was a well-known, once he's trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago, I think Trump had to sort of distance a little bit because that's the kind of shit that would get Trump arrested. And then eventually in 2003, they had the falling out over the business deal, and, their relationship soured. Epstein wanted to report Trump for money laundering and yada, yada, yada. But man, dude, this shit is crazy, isn't it? It is again, Trump is right in the fucking center of this, guys. He is the central figure, and and everybody's revolving around him. And again, there was another David Schuster tweet today, guys, which he was the guy. Okay, you ready? Let me just pull this up because I think this is important. But so David Schuster, okay, you ready? Let me pull this other thing real quick. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pull one more photo up. I want to bring the original Schuster tweets. Okay. Okay. So before the discharge petition, found error. All right, let me do this. So remember, in the beginning of all this, Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna start the discharge petition. And they started flipping people. Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace, they're gathering. They needed to get 218 to force a vote on this. And so David Schuster wrote a tweet that said House GOP members had already heard from FBI and DOJ like whistleblowers that the shit in these files are like worse than you can imagine. Okay. It's like even worse than the Michael Wolff photos. Okay. And that the people in the GOP were all getting spooked. And then Schuster said, like, once 𝗦𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗪 gets sworn in and signs that discharge petition, he said that everybody's going to vote to release these. And he said more than 100 Republicans will vote. But what we saw was they all voted, everyone except Clay Higgins. And then the Senate did a unanimous consent. So basically it was 534-1 to release this shit. And then Trump had to sign it because it was veto proof. If he had vetoed it, he would have looked like an asshole and they would have overridden it. Okay. Now, what's crazy is he called this before this shit happened. Okay. This was a full 2 weeks before this played out. And Schuster called exactly how it was going to play out. They're spooked. Everyone's going to sign this thing. This thing is going to pass like wildfire. Okay. Well, so Schuster tweeted today. Okay. I saw this morning, right? I fucking got up at 6:30. I took a little nap, got up at 6:30, and look at what he tweeted today. He said, DOJ says all Epstein files have been released. Lawmakers say that's not true. FBI, DOJ whistleblowers have told some members of the materials being held, withheld, redacted, or already destroyed include photos, videos of men, including Donald Trump, doing some crazy shit with people he shouldn't have been doing crazy shit with. AKA, right? I mean, we're going to like not get the censors involved here, but you see what I'm saying? So Schuster is saying that they have photos of men, including Trump, okay? And not just, the Michael Wolff photos, but they have like action shots, okay? That they actually possess this shit. Now, I find it believable, okay? Mostly because Schuster he's been pretty right on. You know what I'm saying? He's been pretty right on about this. And yes, but Sky, we gotta like, at least for me, I gotta be careful. Like YouTube has some pretty like valid censorship things. So you have to be careful how you talk about this stuff. All right. You have to be super careful. You have to dance around a lot of talk about this. And I encourage you guys to be real careful about that in chat too, because the AI will pick up the stuff that's on the screen. And if you leave something on the screen for a while, it's all going to get consumed. We have to be very careful in the wordings we use. All right. And so, right. But so there is a lot of scuttlebutt that there are actually action photos of this involvement and with more than one person, okay? That the Dow Jones is crashing, people, okay? That shit is like crashing. Now, some of this has most certainly been destroyed, but I have heard, I've heard multiple intimations. I've heard multiple intimations from many different sources that they have, that the DOJ does possess actual, like, quantifiable, damning evidence. And that's why this is so resistant. That's why there's so much resistance here, because there's an insane amount of resistance, and everybody's in on this. Okay. Todd Blanche is in on this cover up. Pam Bondi is in on this cover up. I mean, Pam Bondi has likely been in on this cover up for 10 years, 15 years. She became the Attorney General of Florida in 2011. And so it is most certainly that her and Trump somewhere along the line refined their position. 𝗙ście Patel is definitely in on this. I firmly believe more than anything, this is why Dan Bongino jumped ship. Okay. I do. I think maybe on some level they know that Bongino's like not ever going to open his mouth, but I think this had something to do with Bongino leaving, that he simply just couldn't do it. Okay. That he's whatever. He obviously has no integrity, because if he did, he would be a whistleblower, but he has like the tiniest amount of integrity in order to, oh shit, dude, Jenny, I put a video in the folder, babe. I forgot to do it. There we go. My bad, baby. So I think there's a really good chance. All right. I think there's a really good chance that Bongino like knew and he just had to get out. Okay. I got to pivot. Keep fighting the good fight, King. I got you, Miles. Thank you, brother. Let's go, boss. Dude, Miles coming in hot, bro. We got this, dude. We are never going to let up. Okay. We are never going to let up. Okay. Now, we are not going to let up, guys. Okay. We're not. We're going to keep pedal to the metal. But there is, it's the walls are closing in. Okay. The walls around Trumpy are closing in. 𝗙ście Patel is definitely implicated. I mean, if we look into this, I'm sure there are many other people, like involved. I'm sure there's a huge string of people involved. At this point, though, it's going to be more like how's it going to come out, right? Is it going to come out by the Dems retake the House and they release this shit? I mean, I really think, guys, more than anything, this is why the House battle is happening. This is why they're having Texas gerrymander, why they're trying to get other states to gerrymander. This is why they're thinking about putting ICE at the polls. I mean, they're not even passing any legislation. Okay. These guys are not doing anything legislatively. They're not passing anything. They don't have the votes for anything. I think the entire battle over the midterms isn't even about Trump getting impeached. It's about the fact that they know the Dems take the House back, this will get investigated. This stuff will get unredacted. This is going to see the light of day. And so it's going to get ugly this year, guys. Okay? This year is going to get ugly, which is why we have to show up in just droves, like 110% like voter turnout. Like we have to show up so powerfully strong that it is just absolutely undeniable. Okay. Undeniable is what we need to do. Now, there's another thing I do want to discuss here, guys. Okay. Let me get this other thing set up. Now, this other thing has some salacious information on it, so I can't really. I'm going to put a link to the. I'm going to put a link to the thing. Hold on, let me pull this out. I'm going to put a link to. I am going to put a link to the tweet if you want to follow along on your computer or what have you while you listen. Or I'm going to put it in Discord, okay? If you're not in the Discord, join it down in the description. But you can like look at it through Discord. Let me find this. Give me a second here because I will put it on screen in the YouTube video, but I'm going to have to blur some shit out because it does have some racy stuff connected, okay? And it is from Roger Sullenberger, okay? And let me do this. Give me 1 sec to get my thing set up here, okay? And what he has done, okay, is he has taken Donald Trump, Harvey Weinstein, Prince Andrew, Glenn Dubin, Jess Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Howard Lutnick, and William Barr and Leon Black, and he has like made one graphic that logs all of their credible accusations. Now, each of these that he has pulled out, okay? Well, so the thing about that, Saint, the reason why you didn't hear Bill Gates is because nobody has accused Bill Gates of anything, okay? There's like Bill Gates has gone to the island. There's a relationship with Bill Gates, but nobody went into a court deposition and said anything about Bill Gates, okay? But all of these guys were spoken about in a court deposition, and the FBI investigated them, okay? Now, what we don't have is we don't have the results of these investigations. So that's where the files that are withheld are something is up with them, because we know that these credible accusations all got investigated, but what we don't know is we don't know what the results of those investigations were. And those are still in the other 3 million files that have not been released. Okay, let me pull up the thread, and I'm going to pull up the guy's Substack because he's got this thing. And so I'm going to put a link. Let me pull this down here. All right, so I have it on my little private thing, and I'm going to put a link to the Substack and the tweet. Well, actually, I'm going to put a link to the tweet, and you'll be able to go to the Substack, all right, from the tweet. That'll be the easiest. His Substack link is there, all right? And I'm putting that in Discord. I'm putting it in the general chat right now, all right? So if you guys want to follow along on here, it is right there. All right, there it is. There's the Sullenberger tweet. Now, I am going to his Substack, and we're going to read this, okay? And I'm going to read it and you know, in a way, if you guys want to read along, I'm going to read it in a way that, you know, makes it so I can add the copy later and put this in the YouTube video. But anyway, so here we go. It says FBI interviewed Trump accuser, Epstein files show. And it says Trump was credibly accused of SA in the Epstein files. It's unclear what became of the DOJ's investigation. So again, we know this stuff has been investigated, but we don't know what the results are because they have not released that stuff. And it says the FBI spoke to a victim of Jeffrey Epstein who also accused Trump of SA, according to records in the Justice Department's publicly searchable Epstein database. The records don't show what became of the DOJ's investigation, but the documents indicate the government found her to be credible. Okay? The government found her to be credible. And so what I'm reading is the link is in Discord in the general chat. Okay? They records elsewhere in the files reveal that a woman with matching biographical details sued Epstein's estate and won a settlement in 2021. So we have somebody who credibly accused the Donald. The DOJ investigated and found her to be credible. We don't know the results of the investigation, but then later on she went and won a settlement in 2021 from the Epstein estate. The allegations and FBI interview are landmark revelations undermining the White House protestations that Trump hasn't been accused of wrongdoing and showing instead that the U.S. government has been aware of a credible Trump accuser in the Epstein files. Now, that's what makes this such a bombshell, guys, is the linchpin of their protectionism with Trump has been nobody has accused Trump, right? You even saw it in the Virginia Giuffre video we watched earlier, right? Remember where Trump said, Virginia said nothing bad about us, right? That's been his sort of linchpin. Okay. And so what it says here is it says that, blank redacted stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down to his, unit, which she subsequently bit. Okay, that's what it says. And in response, he, supposedly punched her and kicked her out. And her approximate age is, not legal. Okay, let's put it to you that way. Several years under. Okay, now this alleged assault took place in the early to mid 80s. And then this was somebody that went on to be, victimized by Epstein after this. Okay, so this was in the early part of the sort of the bell curve. This would have been around the time that Ghislaine Maxwell was jet setting around New York City, around the time that Donald Trump was hanging out with Robert Maxwell on the yacht, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now the second claim is another one where Epstein introduced somebody to Trump and saying, this is a good one, right? And then Trump agreed. And she at the time was 14 years old. Okay. And that was an incident that happened at a Mar-a-Lago club. And this is something that is like everybody in the DOJ is like certain that that event happened. Now, there was no assault of any kind with that second one. There was just the reference to the young girl of Epstein, like referencing this young girl about being a good one and Trump agreeing. And we've heard other like bystanders or something have come forward talking about that. So that is a very credible instance of something that happened. And in fact, one of the government, that person, okay, that incident, one of the people that brought that incident to light, that witnessed that, was one of the witnesses at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. Okay. So this is somebody who's gone in front of a jury and cross-examination and survived. So that incident in Mar-a-Lago absolutely happened, and there's no question to the credibility of it. Now, that is merely supportive evidence that there was public references to, a 14-year-old girl being a good one, being talked about in a way that is like not the way grown men normally talk about a young person. And it was done in public at Mar-a-Lago, like within earshot of other human beings, which shows a brazenness for that type of, engagement. Okay. And it says both the presentation and the email chain were created last summer around the time that Todd Blanche interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. And now here's what it says. It says the assault allegation initially came via a lead called into an FBI hotline. Okay. And that is like the hotline tip sheet. Okay. The Trump accusation sits at the top of that list, which also contains salacious, unverified, and often bizarre accusations against Trump. Now, that is where you get all those things about the yacht in Lake Michigan and the babies and the whatever, all the Dan Faree, the limo driver. All of those were from FBI tip sheets. But the initial credible assault allegation started with an FBI tip sheet, but we know that they found that witness to be credible, and they did investigate at least that one, okay? And the notes show that the FBI followed up on the tip, they learned the victim's identity from the caller, and they prepared to dispatch agents to the interview, okay? But the slideshow presentation and the internal emails from last summer don't cite the hotline as the source for the tip, as they do for a tip about Bill Barr. They cite the victim herself as the source of the claim, which shows that they actually spoke to her, okay? And that's what's really interesting. The Bill Barr thing, they're quoting the tip sheet. A caller called in and there's a tip, okay? This started as a tip sheet, but when they present this evidence in this slideshow of what they have, they're saying the tip came from the accuser, which means they followed up and they actually went and spoke to her, okay? The information was coming from her. Now, I don't know if this, I'm not sure about the details here. I'll have to cross-reference later, but I don't know if this is like one of the Katie Johnson incidents or if this is just another Jane Doe. I'll have to look at that, cross-reference that later. But it says, while it's not clear what became of the investigation into the Trump claim, details from the tip match other records in the files, including an FBI 302 write-up of an interview with an Epstein victim and her lawyer. That interview was conducted on July 24th of 2019, after they arrested Epstein the second time, entered into the FBI's case files on August 9th, the day before Epstein was found dead, okay? And dude, when you look at this thing, it is redacted to shit. Look at that. This is the 302 tip sheet, okay? That thing is redacted beyond redacted. But think about that, guys. An email chain goes out with a slideshow detailing credible accusations. One of the accusations, right? One of the accusations is about Trump, deemed credible, where they talk to the accuser in that email slideshow. Then what ends up happening is there was another interview with an FBI agent, with an Epstein victim and her lawyer, okay? And that interview had some details that matched this other investigated tip. They conducted that interview in July after Epstein had been arrested. They put it into the case files on August 9th, and the next day, Epstein is dead. So we have a credible accusation of Trump, investigated, spoke to the accuser. It gets corroborated by another witness and her lawyer's statement. That FBI field report gets logged into the files as supportive evidence, and the next day, Epstein is dead. That's a weird coincidence, guys. I don't think I need to say it again for you to get the picture that we're painting here, that once there was corroboration and this accusation now becomes incredibly credible because now it's a cohesive story from multiple sources, all of a sudden Epstein goes bye-bye, okay? And the last guy who went in to talk to him was Bill Barr, who was, Trump's right-hand man. Yeah, not suspicious at all. And you saw the redaction. Oh my God, those pages are so redacted. And it says, you ready for this? It says later in the interview, this is the interview now with that woman. Okay, this is the interview with the woman and her lawyer in July of 2019. It says later in the interview, the woman discussed a photo of Epstein and Trump that someone had sent her, which was still saved in her phone. The victim asked the agents if she could crop someone out of the picture, and she wanted to crop out Donald Trump. When the FBI agent asked if she could explain why she wanted to crop Trump out, the woman hesitated, and her attorney answered, saying redacted was concerned about implicating additional individuals, and specifically any that were well known due to fear of retaliation. So this woman had a picture of Epstein and Trump, and she wanted to crop Trump out because she was afraid if she gave that picture to the FBI, Trump would retaliate against her. Okay? And of note, the particular image sent to her was recognized by agents as the widely distributed photograph of Jeffrey Epstein and a current United States President, Donald Trump. Epstein database searches for this victim's case number turn up other affiliated documents, including a July 19th, 2019 memo showing the FBI's Seattle, Washington field office handled the interview. The woman's Epstein victimization occurred in the 80s when she was 13 to 15, resided in blank island area of South Carolina. It's redacted. I don't know if that's Daniel Island. I don't know if that is like one of the coastal islands, but that is very likely. If it's a blank island in South Carolina, I am willing to bet 6 ways to sideways it's in Nancy Mace's district. Okay, all of those island areas are pretty much in Nancy Mace's district. I'm not saying Nancy, she wasn't even in Congress at the time, but if she has seen some of this stuff, it may be like that may be why she signed on, because maybe this is personal. Maybe this is shit that was going on in her area. Okay. But it was somebody who resided there, and the reported victim provided enough preliminary information to warrant a follow-up interview. So basically, guys, I don't know if you're familiar with the way this FBI shit investigation works or police investigations, is they normally follow up every tip, even the most insane thing, and they drive out there and they take an interview and they make notes and they decide in that first interview, is this insane? Is this credible? And if it's not credible, they followed the tip and they just put that in their case files and they're done with it. But these guys were like, we're going to do a follow-up. So that meant the agents that went and visited this person, they looked at this information. It rang true with other shit they had. They found them to be credible when they questioned them, and they set it up for a follow-up. Okay, those biographical details match the initial tip, which notes a criminal history in South Carolina. They match public reporting about a South Carolina victim related to Vancouver, Washington, who filed a lawsuit against Epstein in 2021. Okay, so then this person went on to file a lawsuit with the estate a couple years later. According to reports about the lawsuit, the victim claimed she had also been assaulted and raped by other prominent wealthy men she met in other states when Epstein took her to gatherings in New York City. Okay, so he took her to gatherings in New York City, and then, you know, she went and met other people. Okay, the alleged assault at Trump's hands was in New Jersey, according to this report. Okay, the woman's report settlement with the Epstein case came despite let's see. So the woman's settlement with the Epstein case, even though she didn't have like a plethora of evidence. Oh, this is interesting too. Okay, because when you filed with Epstein's estate would, you know, obviously they didn't want to pay everybody, right? Like everybody who came to the estate didn't get money. You had to deeply prove your connection. Okay, you had to come with like hard evidence. And what the FBI or what this reporter is saying is despite the fact that this particular victim didn't have a lot of like hard evidence, she just had a story and some details that of course were corroborated by other victims' information. The estate still like instantly paid her out, right? She showed up, filed the claim, and the estate was like, here's your money, bye-bye. So So that's really interesting too, because it almost makes it seem like there was such a significance of what went on with her that the state like knew who she was and knew what the incident was. The minute she showed up, they were just simply here, sign the NDA and off you go. Okay. And there's also like limited information about this person in the files. Okay. There's a few records. There's some crop photos of Epstein, but there's gaps in the record keeping. So this reporter when he's following the paper trail of this particular victim, it looks like there's pieces missing. There's like some reports and then a gap, and then there's some reports and then there's a gap. And so that is what is sketchy. Okay. And it says it says a master Epstein evidence manifesto, or a master Epstein evidence manifest shows the government acquired at least 4 pieces of evidence in late February and March of last year, around the time the DOJ was doing its all-hands-on review of the Epstein records, and around the time the DOJ was returning to Trump troves of sensitive government documents he took with him to Mar-a-Lago upon leaving office in 2021. I've reached out to a DOJ spokesman for comment. We'll update this with any response. Oh my God. That's really interesting, guys. Because like they're almost implying that like Trump took some of this shit. That Trump grabbed some of this information. But also it looks like what he's saying here, that this reporter has found an evidence manifest that shows that pieces of information, 4 pieces of evidence, showed up for this particular victim who had accused Trump, had a corroborated story. Right around the time Pam Bondi and 𝗙ście Patel were saying, hey, we're doing this. We got the list. We're releasing this any day now. And then like they see this shit and poof, all of a sudden they turn tail. Literally by May, it was over. Okay. They get this shit in February and March. And by May, they were like, we don't have any information. Trump is like, this is a hoax. Everybody's turning around, right? Everybody's turning tail. So far, Trump, thanks in part to false statements, misdirection, public confusion, and excessive redactions from his own DOJ, has evaded the crosshairs of credible allegations in the Epstein files. However, this claim would contradict that narrative. And the second claim against him, that the this is a good one, huh, comment from Epstein, that would appear to carry substantial credibility. Okay, it came from a witness in the Maxwell trial, and a separate internal DOJ email about allegations involving Maxwell victims and prominent figures around the same time, days before the Blanche jailhouse interview, includes that allegation. The encounter occurred at Trump's resort compound at Mar-a-Lago, and it matches a claim in handwritten notes from 2019, where the victim recounts her traumatic history with Epstein and Maxwell, and that Trump encounter was around 94 or 95. So that's about a year before the awkward Maria Farmer incident. Okay. And he had introduced himself. This is my friend, redacted, the notes say. So this is my friend. They redacted Trump in the notes. Okay. And so, yeah, dude. So that is damning. Okay. I'm looking here to see if there's any more. It says the 94 Mar-a-Lago encounter with that that Maxwell trial witness it happened 2 years. It happened 94, 2 years before Annie Farmer's trip to New Mexico. Okay. And a decade before Trump said he kicked Epstein out of his club. And see, this, guys, is the main issue with this Trump timeline around this stuff is Trump keeps turning the focus of the camera on 2006 and 2000, right, and beyond. Oh, I reached out to the police. I was a whistleblower. I kicked him out of my club, right? But like, there was a 15-year history, okay, that happened before any of that, okay? He had a 15, 20-year history with this guy. You know what I'm saying? And 𝗙𝗪𝗓, you said, I am pretty focused on Trump. Absolutely. I'm 100% focused on Trump. Why? Because he is the fucking president of the United States, okay? And he was the one who got elected saying he was going to release this stuff. And also, right, without a doubt, I think Trump is the centerpiece of this whole thing, okay? Without a doubt, Trump is every single person that is deeply connected to Epstein is like right 1 degree separation from Trump. Dude, he is literally like at the center of this thing. He's the fucking nucleus. Okay. So yeah. Hold on. Let me see if there's anything else here. All right. Then what we have later on is there, of course, in 2003, Trump did the birthday book. Remember? Trump denied the birthday book, and he said he was going to sue the Wall Street Journal for writing about it. And the Wall Street Journal actually like showed the book, and everybody wrote about this. And then the estate gave the book, and we saw the book. That was 2003. Okay. So after Virginia Giuffre, and after that they send, spa women to Jeffrey's house and have an incident there. He's signing the birthday book. This is a full 3 years before he like speaks to a police officer or whatever, right? And even then, we don't know what went down with that. But what ended up happening is after they arrested Epstein, and after they investigated him in Palm Beach, Trump called the police chief, Michael Ryder of Palm Beach, and said, I'm glad you got Epstein. He was disgusting and Ghislaine Maxwell is evil. So there was not even any whistleblowing. There was merely him calling the police chief and saying, I've heard really bad things about this guy and they're really bad. I'm glad you got them. So he did like zero. Okay. But you see the Twitter bots, are like, Trump turned him in. Trump like is the reason Epstein got arrested. Yada, yada, yada. Right. But like he did not. Okay. He merely made a forward momentum reach out to the police chief before they came and talked to him. Okay. And then the White House, though, would not confirm or deny that call occurred. So again, guys, we don't know if that call actually occurred or if the police chief says the call occurred. We don't know. All right. We're going to take him for his word, but the White House did not comment. Okay. And supposedly Trump said, thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this. And then the chief recalled Trump claiming that he encountered Epstein around a group of teenagers, that he got the hell out of there, which ironically is the same wording that Lutnick used. Okay. But like, guys, that is incredibly damning. Isn't that crazy? So there you go. All right. There is the story. Okay. And then here's what's interesting, guys. Okay, is this. I feel like this 𝗙𝗪𝗡 fucking, she is a journalist, okay? And she is a very well-known journalist. And she wrote this thing that I think is really important, okay? And I'm going to like censor some of the reporting here. Let me censor some of this, okay? But basically what 𝗙𝗪𝗡 says Epstein was arrested the July 4th weekend in 2019, okay? And then there was a press conference and an arraignment. And what 𝗙cie𝗶𝗍𝗆 says is that when they went into the house in Palm Beach, okay, to process what was going on, you have the Palm Beach, New York, there were 1,700 photographs on his walls that the FBI confiscated. 1,700. Guys, think about this, okay? Think about his house in, whatever. He's got a mansion in New York. He's got a mansion in Palm Beach, right? I mean, they're big houses, but 1,700 pictures, okay? They had 1,700 photographs of underage people on his walls in his house, which meant anyone who went into that house and hung out there and partied there and spent time there, anyone who went there was like aware of this, okay? They were aware of at least his predilections and his like brazenness. You know what I mean? It was like you would not take a family into that house. You would be in there, you would look at the walls, and in 5 minutes you would be like, holy shit, let's get out of here. So that means all of the people that like attended his parties or went there, like any person you see photographed inside that house or hanging out in that house, they knew. Oh, Lutnick absolutely knew. Lutnick went to the island. Lutnick was in business with Giuffre. They knew that. That doesn't mean they were participating, but that meant that they were aware of what he was into, and they were seeing photographic images of this stuff on the walls of his house, and they were not walking out and calling the cops. Okay? So there is like, I think that says a lot, guys. Okay? That says a lot about this. And again, okay, this is, look at this, dude. Look at what we have here. Look at the number one thing trending. Epstein emails show no Musk visit to the island. Look at what Elon is doing, guys. Okay? Now again, guys, I believe Elon Musk went to the island, and I've said this before. I have looked over the emails with Elon making a huge deal about, hey, I want a party. I don't just want a vacation. I want one of your wildest parties. Here's what I believe happened. I believe you saw the rejection where Epstein's like, oh, I can't make it. And then there's no more contact. I believe Elon was contacted, that Elon is just a dork that doesn't know how to like talk about this shit. And so Elon's typing his emails, I want your wildest party, multiple times. And I think somebody went to Elon and said, yo, zip it. Okay. Yo, like shut it, homie. Okay. And we don't do it that way. No more contact. Okay. No more email, right? You use the phone, you do whatever. Now, what's interesting about this is that does not mean that Elon didn't go to the island. That just simply means if Elon went to the island, he did it, being like via phone call or in a roundabout way. But at the end of the day, guys, nobody knows who went to the island because they all went by helicopter. Okay? There was a helipad on the island. All of these wealthy people have helicopters, or they're on yachts that the yachts have helicopters, or they're private, private estates all have helipads. Like, that's what you do in the Virgin Islands. You go and you park your boat in St. Bart's, or you park your boat somewhere, and then you get on a helicopter and you go and you cruise to the island. That's what you do. Okay. You get on a helicopter and you go, and there's no manifest. There's no nothing, right? You pop from some private helipad on St. Bart's, and you go zip over to these other islands. And now I believe Elon definitely went to the island. And I believe the fact that even now as all this information comes out, Elon is like having his own social media network be like featuring this as the number one thing when, look, guys, it's only 3,000 posts. This isn't even trending. The other shit is 11,000. There's 23,000. There is certainly news that is bigger than this. But of course, this is in the number one slot. And I think that that's a real, that's a real example of the guilt that is going on here, right? There's a high level of Elon culpability. I mean, you just have to look at people's behavior. Yes, it absolutely makes him look guilty. And people's behavior, right? I mean, you could say Lutnick's interview where he schedules out of the blue an interview with a woman. Let me tell you the story about me and Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, I walked in, I saw a table. He said the right kind of massage. I'm like, this guy's a creep. One and done, I'm out. Dude, he arranged the whole interview, Lutnick did. To then, a couple months later, we find out that they're in business together and he's taking his kids to the island. Like, come on, bro. Okay? Come on, bro. And one other thing I do want to say, okay, was Elon's focus about I want your wild parties in the emails. And why do I make a big deal about that? Is again, because he knows, they knew Elon had not even been in that circle yet, really. He was ostensibly an outsider, dumb enough to be typing this shit in the email, but he had heard, like everybody knew what Jeffrey's wild parties were, that they were like group endeavors that went on this private island where you can pretty much do whatever you want, right? Were they Nutlick's kids? I don't know. I don't know, Velvet, if they were his kids or if he was bringing, if that was code word for like other people he was bringing. It's hard to tell. But the fact of the matter is this was well known. Everybody knew when Jeffrey had a party, like they didn't even use his last name. They just called him Jeffrey. So when somebody mentioned Jeffrey, you knew who they were talking about. And when somebody mentioned Jeffrey's parties, you knew what those parties were. Okay? There was no question about this stuff. And, right? No question. No question. And that, guys, I think is very damning and it's very telling. Okay? And again, look at what it says. It says, no records of Musk visiting the party, right? No wrongdoing, right? Epstein suggested trips. Musk responded non-committally, and one planned meeting fell through when Epstein canceled. Okay, a 2013 lunch and SpaceX tour did occur, although Musk said he didn't remember it. Like, dude, give me a fucking break, bro. Right? And SpaceX servers rejected Epstein's emails later on. Okay? Right? And then, of course, this is the kind of defense they use, right? If I'd ever been there, he would have bragged about it endlessly and used my visit as a means of getting others to go like he did when Reid Hoffman went. But the thing about this, guys, is Elon Musk was a fucking nobody in 2013. Okay? He was a nobody. Elon was basically pretty much a nobody until he hooked up with Trump. Okay? Like Elon was not Elon was geeky. Like this is even before his hair plugs. You know what I'm saying? Like Elon used to look like this, guys. Okay? Just so you know, like I don't know when he got the plugs, but Elon, like vintage Elon, looked like this, bro. Let's remind you who Elon was back then. Okay, this is a little earlier, but this was Elon Musk. Okay, that's Elon Musk. And the version of Elon Musk we see today was created. Okay, he was like tired, balding, nerdy, Okay. Nothing wrong with that, right? Goofy, whatever, but he has created a look. Okay. He used his money to craft a different Elon, right? This is not, you see the difference, guys? You see the difference? Okay, let's look at those two. Let's look at them side by side, guys. Okay? Like, there you go. Yeah, a lot of gender affirming care. Nose job, okay? Like, the eyes look pretty much the same. Definite hair plugs, hair work, right? But nose job and, maybe a little work on his fucking, upper lip, right? And, looks like some cheekbone work as well, right? Yeah, lip fillers. I was thinking the same thing. Little lip fillers, a little cheap cheek and chin sculpting, and hair, hair plugs. Dude, but here's the thing though, guys. And like, I don't want to say like, don't, I don't want to say like, don't, whatever. I mean, because if you want to like fix your shit, if you have crooked teeth and you want to make them straight or make them white or do some surgery and get hair plugs, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Like people want to look good, whatever. I mean, I think normally that's more for people that are actors, right? If you're in front of a camera and that look becomes part of your livelihood, I get it. When Nick Cage fixed his teeth, yeah, he was getting in, wanted to be a big star, wanted to expand his career, wanted to get roles that were not, just the drug addict or the crazy person, wanted to be a leading man. You have to like fix that shit, okay? Right? If you're an actor, but like Elon Musk was not an actor. He's a businessman. He's a behind the scenes guy. But here's a problem, though. You ready? The problem is if you don't fix the insecurity, okay? Because ostensibly, let's go back to the Nicolas Cage example. So what happens with a Hollywood person that does it is you would go to therapy and find a level of comfort with who and what you are, and then you would make a decision to invest in cosmetic surgery for the purpose of your career. But if you don't heal the reason, if you're getting it for vanity, okay, you're getting it just to avoid who you are, you don't get rid of the insecurity, okay? You know what I'm saying? You don't. And Elon Musk obviously never got rid of the insecurity, and it festered and got worse, and now he's a crazy red pillar. And my guys, this goes with baldness, okay? Because I know a lot of guys, they get like male pattern baldness, they get a hard hairline, they shave their head, right? Because they look bald, it's like a look, right? Okay, I'm gonna get rid of it. But here's the deal, guys. If you don't deal with the insecurity before you go bald, you end up just being a bald guy with the same fucking insecurity you had when you had your hairline. So the point being, you have to address the underlying issue and get comfortable with that even before you like shave your head. Otherwise, you're going to have a shaved head with that same insecurity. The insecurity does not go away when you shave your head, because every time you look at your shaved head, you know you have a shaved head because you couldn't handle not having a shaved head, okay? And you may talk yourself into that you shaved it, and you may talk everyone around you into that you shaved it, but if you haven't dealt with the underlying insecurity, you know what I'm saying? You will still be carrying that shit, okay? The insecurity does not go away by merely hiding it. It just doesn't work like that, okay? It does not. That's why you gotta really like take ownership of that shit. And you gotta heal the fucking issues first. And then you can do shit. Then you can like shave your head, or then you can get your hair plugs or do whatever. It's like after you've addressed the underlying shit, you know what I mean? But if you do it to hide, you end up where Elon is. And obviously he is like, not in a great spot. But I think it's just wild how right? And now look at him. 3 million files exonerate Elon Musk while implicating Reid Hoffman. But again, this is an Elon creation. Elon is trying to shine the light on Reid Hoffman to take the heat off himself, okay? And because they blocked Epstein's emails or whatever, blah, 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 Elon was ignoring Epstein. But like, dude, I'm not buying this shit. I mean, and the fact that they are so having like, you know, this guy, Amuse, is a huge disinformation spreader, and Doge designer, the fact that they're all releasing the same thing, okay? All of these guys are, it's clear Elon didn't do anything wrong. Reid Hoffman, like there's a coordinated effort here. They're like, look at him. He's with his kids. Elon's a family guy. Dude, Elon never hangs out with his kids, okay? Elon went to that island, okay? They're all saying Elon is vindicated. He never visited, blah, blah, blah. Dude, Elon, I'm telling you, dude, Elon definitely went to that island, okay? Dude, Elon definitely went to that island. His behavior of like this coordinated, like, you know, social media campaign to exonerate himself is like, to me, is a huge instance. And now I want to drop one other thing to you guys, okay? What if, you ready for this? I mean, there is a good chance that Elon Musk's foray into politics and Elon Musk's support of Donald Trump was actually about this, that this was one of the motivating factors. Because you have to ask, like, why would Elon go from being a, like, you know, LGBTQ, you know, Pride Month celebrating Tesla person with a huge fan base of his cars, left wing, and then all of a sudden he rapidly becomes right wing? I know he said like his trans daughter, whatever, blah, blah, but dude, during Biden's term, the real thing that everyone was looking at was the Maxwell case, Ghislaine Maxwell's appeals. So if Biden or a Democrat had won again, Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal was going to end in this term, okay? Nobody could release those files while she was appealing. But they knew that this term was when that appeal was going to get finished and those files were going to be available for release, and this whole thing was going to come back into vogue, okay? And so it is a strong possibility that some of this has played into their urgency of needing to win now. And I mean, because the thing why Trump was so upset about 2020 is if he had gotten it in 2020, this would have just probably disappeared. Ghislaine would have never been prosecuted. Like, who knows what would have happened in that instance if he had won in 2020, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, there was definitely something with Elon, you know, having a reaction with his transgender daughter, but the purchase of Twitter, I believe, was more about this and more about, like, you know, like controlling the narrative than it was like he was just angry at his trans daughter. And so he goes and buys a social media network. Like, there, you know, and this network in particular, Twitter, is connected to the news, is connected to the government. It is like Twitter is like the government and news social media space, guys. It has been. That's why that's why I got on Twitter, because I've always been a politics, news, government guy. And so back in 2013, I was on Twitter because I could be following my favorite politicians and newscasters, and you can be getting news like up to the minute. You can follow stories. You read about it in the New York Times, and then you follow it all day on Twitter. And that's how, like, all of us that were on Twitter, that's why we were on. That's why there weren't a lot of kids on Twitter, because Twitter was news and politics, okay? Instagram was fashion and music and sports, right? You had Facebook was like boomers and people having mental breakdowns and people keeping in touch with their families and friends and, you know, looking up their ex-girlfriends and shit, right? That was Facebook, right? But it was Twitter was news and politics. And that's why Elon bought it, right? Narrative, okay? Narrative, man. You got to figure Kamala and Joe both knew and read. Yeah, see, I don't think so, Orphan, because like Kamala and Joe, they did not sit down. I don't think they ever met with the DOJ, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like if Joe Biden's name was in there, somebody from the DOJ would have probably gone to the White House and alerted him. But in a normal administration, the president and the vice president, they never talk to the DOJ. Those are independent operations. And even if you talk to them, you got to be real careful. Like, look what happened when Clinton talked to fucking, right, on the tarmac, right? Remember? Was it Clinton or was it Obama? He talked to like the attorney general on the tarmac and it was like a huge fucking scandal. Like, no, that is a huge no-no in government, was like the DOJ, because the DOJ's job is to hold the president and the vice president and Congress accountable. So the DOJ, you put people in there and you set it and you forget it. And you're not supposed to ever speak to them at all, right? Who was it? Was it Clinton or was it Obama and Lynch? It was Loretta Lynch. It's a huge scandal, right? It was Clinton. Okay. Yeah. It was Clinton and Loretta Lynch. Okay. Fucking that talked on the tarmac. Right? As a U.S. Attorney General, a private meeting with Bill Clinton on a Phoenix airport tarmac during the FBI investigation into Hillary's email server. And it was like, what the fuck is going on, bro? Right? You know what I'm saying? And it was like Clinton wasn't even a president. Like, my God, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about that is like the DOJ, you never talk to them. Okay, what Trump is doing now, guys, with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, his personal attorney, being in the DOJ, and Pam Bondi, his Florida friend, being the attorney general, and them taking orders from Trump, is like the most insane corruption that we have ever seen in American government, and nobody is calling it out. It is like unfucking real, dude. If there was even a suggestion of Joe Biden talking to the DOJ or like Barack Obama talking to the DOJ, they would have been impeached. They would have been vilified in the press. Right? And this is like the daily. Like, Trump is the most corrupt human being ever in the history of U.S. government. Like, you probably have to go back to like Aaron Burr and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is Jesus. You know, this shit is wild. Now, dude, the president will get CIA briefings. Okay, they will get briefings from the CIA. They will get briefings from the FBI, but they're getting briefings about national security. Okay, if somebody from the fucking FBI went to the president and said, "Hey, we got some files in here with your name on it. What do you want me to do?" Like, dude, all the conversations are fucking recorded in the fucking White House. And dude, nobody's censoring comments. Talk to YouTube. All right? If you got to complain about censorship, you got to talk to YouTube. They do that shit. I don't touch the comments. Okay? YouTube censors you. So whatever you're saying, YouTube doesn't want you to say, right? Like, I have no idea, right? That's a YouTube thing, boss. Take it up with the man. Yeah, the algorithm removes some words, right? They're watching you. Oh, you're going to get a knock. Yo, what's up? It's YouTube. Kidding. Oh, but yeah, man, like, you know, I think like most fucking, you know, people in government have just respected the institutions. Okay? They've respected the institutions. And guys, I don't know if you guys have ever been in this instance, but let me just tell you, as somebody who has been involved on the skirts of you know, one of the things you do in power situations is you operate on limited information, okay? Which means it'll look like this, guys. Let me just tell you how you normally do it, okay? If you're somebody like Trump or his people, they will brazenly lie, even under oath, or do what Pam Bondi did, and they will subject themselves to perjury. But you know what normal people do? Is normal people operate on limited information, which means what will happen is somebody could say, like somebody might go to Joe Biden's people and say, we're hearing that there is something going on at the DOJ looking into the Epstein case, okay? And then the Joe Biden's people will not get any information, okay? They will not ask questions. They will just assume that that's related to something with the case, and then they might relay that information. But that way, if they get asked to stand in front of a fucking congressional Senate committee, they can say, did you ever talk about Bill Clinton and Epstein with the DOJ? And they can say no, because they didn't. They literally just stood there and somebody just mentioned that this case was being looked at. So people, like, when they do operate in those things, normal people who are not going to lie under oath will always operate without getting information, because you literally don't want to know, okay? You literally don't want to know any of that shit, because it can lead you to an untimely arrest and prison, okay? And I think people are real careful about that shit, okay? People don't want to go to prison. So my thing is, guys, is like, I most certainly there were rumors, but we don't know how tightly this was held in the FBI, okay? I think Maureen Comey at SDNY and the lawyers that prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, they most certainly knew, okay? They did. Maureen Comey and the lawyers that were going to prosecute Epstein and the ones that prosecuted Ghislaine, they all know, okay? There are plenty of people at the FBI that know. Now, in all likelihood, there are like several levels of gatekeeper, like preventing this information from people knowing shit to protect them. Now, the only reason why I think Trump is different is that Trump almost requires knowing, because he wants to like be able to dictate shit, and he wants to have, like, I feel like Trump, if anything, probably pokes his nose in places where normally people don't. So I don't know who like knows the depth of all this. I really don't. I would imagine that any president or any government figure that wanted to like make sure they would never end up in jail probably heard the rumors and heard the scuttlebutt, but they just made sure they never got involved in any of the conversations. And despite the rumors they may hear, they probably just chose to not know. Okay, right? That's a thing that people like, you know, when there's incriminating information that could potentially put you in jail by knowing, a lot of people then decide they're going to not know. Okay, you know what I mean? But certainly we're never going to really know on that level. I mean, I believe though, most of the FBI and CIA reports that end up on people's desks are related to the national security and the functioning of the government. Okay. right? And honestly, because guys, if you look at the CIA and you look at the FBI, there's probably thousands of cases and operations going on in those two like things. And so the president is only being told what he needs to be told, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think in most instances, I don't think the presidents are always the ones having the information, right? Because they don't need to know. They only know what they need to know, what they're going to get asked about. So I mean, there's we don't know which presidents knew or didn't know. I mean, this stuff obviously goes back to 96. So it goes back to Clinton's first presidency and through George Bush, who was the son of a guy in the CIA, and through Obama, and then through Trump, and then through Biden. And so we don't know, we honestly don't know who among those knew what, okay? I do know, though, that in general, most people in the government try to stay away from having knowledge that can end them up in prison, right? That is a fact that I know takes place. And that takes place in business too, guys. If you go up into upper management in a business and there's some improprieties going on, there are a lot of upper management that will simply make sure they don't know the information and they will just take marching orders and do their job, right? Give me marching orders. Give me the orders of what I need to do in the scope of my employment, but I don't want to know why I'm doing this, okay? Is a real common thing to stay out of jail, okay? It is. It is a real common thing to stay out of jail, right? And also, though, Biden was 90, so I don't think Biden was strategizing with his DOJ. That would be way out of character for him. Dude, he's too by the book, right? I feel like Obama probably treaded very lightly with that shit too, because he knew if even a whisper of it got out, he would be impeached and removed from office because he was black. He had to participate in a very cautious and protected way. You know what I mean? Even with Hillary, I bet there are a lot of times where he didn't even want to know what was going on with Hillary. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Information becomes dangerous at that level. You sometimes you want to be on a need to know basis, and you let your underlings be the ones that carry that information, and you stay above it all, right? I mean, it's a technique, but we'll see. We'll see if it comes out. We'll see what comes out. What I am curious about is not so much who knows, or I'm curious about who's going to go down. Okay. That's what I am curious about, is who, if anyone, is going to go down. Are they going to scapegoat, right? Are they going to scapegoat and fucking, try to, are they going to scapegoat somebody and do a pile on, right? There's no doubt that they, as president, insisted and were well read. No, I disagree. I disagree with you, Orphan. I think if I had been president during that time, I would have actually wanted to, I know this sounds terrible, but if I was president at that time and people in my circle were intimately connected to that, I would make sure I never knew a goddamn thing that could be pulled out in front of a Senate committee or under oath. I would make sure I knew fucking nothing about that shit if my people were connected, right? I mean, Trump would want to know everything because he's a fucking idiot, and he's going to be the kind of guy that goes down and opens his goddamn mouth, right? Probably too many people know about this shit. Everyone's probably talking about it in the halls in a Trump admin, but I think good presidents were smarter than to fucking do that shit. Okay, that's why Ronald Reagan didn't go down with Ollie North, because Ronald Reagan made goddamn sure he did not know a goddamn thing that Ollie North was doing. That's what presidents do. Okay, they stay in charge of, yes, the foreign intelligence, they stay in charge of the shit that is going to show up in their press conferences and shit that influences the decisions they need to make militarily. But like, dude, otherwise, if it's anything that could take them and their family down, they are like, don't even talk to me about it, right? I'm serious. I know it sounds crazy, but it's protection, okay? Like, you have your subordinates fucking handle that shit. And now, what information they glean through subordinates in a, like, I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know, but I certainly don't think Joe Biden was ever taking a briefing from the FBI or the CIA about like Jeffrey Epstein or Hillary Clinton or like anybody in his inner circle. Like, oh my God, dude, that would be like so devastating unless it was something that was about to break in the news and he was literally going to have to go up in front of a podium and like defend a controversy, right? Like, there's no fucking way, bro. That would damage them so fucking insanely. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, no. I think smart presidents know better than that. You'd have to be an idiot. You would have to be really dumb to expose yourself to that kind of liability, right? Yeah, I don't know. And I think that's why, like, you know, you're going to see some of that shit, okay? You're going to see, like, who it sticks to. That's what I wonder, guys. What I wonder is who's it going to stick to, right? Like, who's going to be, is there going to be a patsy? Is there going to be a fall guy? And I mean, yeah, that's another thing to remember, guys, that, you know, like, most people didn't really know about any of this until really 2016 was when it really came to the forefront, okay? It was, I mean, 2011 when Virginia Giuffre's story came out, that still sounded salacious. A lot of people didn't believe her. It was mostly focused on Prince Andrew. It was like a UK thing. But then when she sued Ghislaine in 2016 and everyone got deposed, that's when it became real. And then Trump was running for president, which of course made it a national story. Because prior to this, guys, this was just a billionaire, like, you know, like having sex, you know, right? I mean, in the way they charged Epstein with prostitution charges, which we know is bullshit, this was just a billionaire being a sex deviant, which was like local news, okay? It was Palm Beach. Nobody really even paid attention to that shit, right? And in fact, you know what's funny, guys? If you read Julie K. Brown's book, this is going to blow your mind. You ready for this? So check this out. So Julie K. Brown worked at the Miami Herald, okay? Palm Beach is not in Miami. It's a different city. It's further north. It's I believe it's in a different county, right? It is. It's in a different county. So you know what was crazy? The Miami Herald editors didn't even want to cover Epstein because it wasn't a Miami story. And this was even in 2017. This was even while Trump was president. They were like, well, it's a Palm Beach thing. Like, it doesn't involve anyone from Miami, and Trump isn't a Miami figure. And so they gave it like limited like page time until Harvey Weinstein. Okay. Once Harvey Weinstein broke in 2018, and it was like wealthy guy taken down by SA victims, that was when the editors of the Miami Herald were like, find the victims, get the victims to talk, right? It became this like, all of a sudden victims were being listened to. And it was literally Harvey Weinstein, okay, that like made the Miami Herald editors then gave Julie K. Brown carte blanche to chase the Epstein story, because now they realize, oh, this could be national, right? And so that was pretty wild. It's pretty fucking wild, man. It's so, I mean, it's just, like getting to this point, guys, has been a like lightning strikes. It's been like 100 lightning strikes that like made it so this shit came to light. You know, it's like so crazy, right? You know what I mean? People stepping down for way less. Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, the fact that Trump isn't stepping down feels like there's guilt there too, you know? Right? But dude, Epstein like sort of owned the police department. Like, I mean, and that's the thing that's really interesting about this, that I don't know. I mean, there's a strong possibility that Epstein was either connected to CIA and Mossad, or they were aware of him. Like, I don't know if he was an asset. I don't know if he was intelligence. But I will say this, guys, that billionaires, whether they're CIA, I mean, the thing that's really interesting is we want to, like, I know maybe Epstein is CIA. He certainly was powerful enough for an FBI investigation to go bye-bye. Okay, that is power. Okay, that is real power. And he may very well have been intelligence or connected to intelligence or what have you. Absolutely. But one thing I do want to impress upon you is even if he wasn't connected to intelligence, I think you need to understand the extent of power that all billionaires in America have. Okay? The power that billionaires in America have is insane. Okay? A billionaire can they can scrub the internet and make sure that you know one origin story about them. They can make court cases disappear. They can make government investigations disappear. They can make people disappear and nobody follows up on it. I mean, it is like they have immense power when they are connected to government officials. Okay. And that's even if they aren't working for the CIA or whatever, the FBI. I mean, look at what Robert Kraft did with his Jack Shack thing, how that just fucking disappeared. And it disappeared from the press. Shit will disappear from the press. They can get stories killed. I mean, dude, they can do a lot of things because they have more money than God. You know what I'm saying? To use a phrase. It is alarming. And that, guys, is what is so dangerous about billionaires, besides them using up all the resources and taking all the wealth. It is the fact that they have too much power. They have outsized level of power. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that, though, culture, is we don't know if Acosta was telling the truth. Okay? Acosta said somewhere that he was told he was intelligence, but we don't know that that means it's true, because if he was really intelligence, that would be something you would expect Acosta to not say, right? You know what I mean? Like that's what's so weird about the intelligence thing. It is possible that Epstein was a network that was operating above the level of the CIA and Mossad. Okay? Like what if there's a small group of Mossad and CIA and American politicians and financiers and Russian oligarchs that are a group that are operating, that are even aware of what's going on in the CIA and the Mossad, and they have a whole other thing going on that, right? I mean, this could be above those intelligence agencies, where those agencies are aware that these people exist, but they don't even know that those people are tracking the agencies. I mean, we literally don't know how high this goes. You know what I'm saying? You know? And dude, I do read comments, but you're kind of being a jerk, right? So bye-bye. I don't know what your fucking deal is, but screaming and yelling like that is not a way to fucking get noticed. All right? Adios. Adios, muchachos. All right. You didn't see it? Yeah, it was nothing good. It was somebody that was not bringing anything to the conversation, right? I mean, just so you know, and everybody, like, there are people that are here every day that I interact with. And so, like, those people that are here every day tend to get the interactions. And then, you know, like, other people do get noticed, but can't respond to everybody. But yeah, man, dude, it's crazy. It is. I mean, that's the thing. So, Orphan, you know, I don't know if you saw this or not, but what I was saying is with somebody had mentioned that Alex Acosta said Epstein, he was told Epstein was intelligence. And what I said was, if Epstein really was intelligence, that would be something that Acosta would not be talking about. Like, he wouldn't leak that information. And so that is something that, like, would be a weird, like, I don't know, feels like it would be a weird soundbite to inject. And so what I was wondering is if there weren't a group of, like, billionaires and financiers and Russian oligarchs and you know, UAE kings and you know, members of the CIA and Mossad that are part of a group that is, like, operating beyond the CIA and Mossad reach, to where these guys aren't actually intelligence. Their intelligence is aware of who these guys are, but these guys are getting leaks from inside those intelligence agencies and operating on like their own private level outside of that shit. That, like, you know, where the intelligence communities are their assets, right? You know, I mean, I will say this, that there's Russian money, okay? I don't think it's a deep state. I just think it's like wealth, right? I don't think it's a deep state. I think it is like ungodly levels of wealth and political power, right? And, you know, and like, you know, like, because the idea of a deep state is that the deep state is, like, controlling shit. But I think it is really, yeah, it is like money laundering and ass covering, okay? It's like, think about, like, 20 of the richest people in the world who have contacts in all the important intelligence agencies, and they are literally just laundering their money and making sure nobody finds out about it, okay? They're making sure that Mossad doesn't find out that they're laundering money for so-and-so, or that the United States CIA doesn't find out that they're laundering money in Bitcoin, and that, right? And that, like, you know, that Interpol doesn't find out that they have a money laundering operation going on in fucking London, and that they're trafficking girls, and that is off everybody's radar, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they're a deep state. I think they are just a group of wealthy guys covering their own asses, covering their own illegal behavior, right? They're just, like, self-protectionists. That's what I think, right? I think the deep state makes it seem like they're making the decisions for all these governments and shit. And I just think they're hiding their own illegal activity, right? You know what I mean? That's what I think. And I don't know. That's, like, you know, I think they're kind of like mobsters in a way, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, when you think about the mob, if you go back to the mob in New York, right? The mob didn't, like, tell the mayor what to do. The mob didn't, like, tell the cops, like, what to police necessarily. They may have bribed them to go bust up their enemies or some shit, but they weren't, like, controlling the government in as much as they were making sure the government just wasn't looking at their shit. Okay? Don't see this. Don't see that. Right? This guy's gonna disappear. Don't look for him very hard. You know what I'm saying? I would appreciate you going and busting this guy, and, like, I'll fucking take care of you. Is there something I can help you with? And right? And maybe they're like, yeah, we want to bury my mayor opponent. And they're like, I got you. So the mob then hooks him up with a sex worker, captures it on film. They help the mayor out. The mayor's opponent is now his campaign is ruined in disgrace because the mafia set him up, right? They were more about just wanting their business to fucking operate. And then they were scratching backs where needed and helping out where needed to make sure that everybody was looking the other way, right? It's like what they say in casino. Everybody's skimming and you're paying people to just turn their back and have a conversation about the painting while you walk in and skim, right? They see you walk in and everybody just goes, hey, look at that painting, right? And they're like, nobody knows you're skimming. Nobody's even looking for it. They're just looking at the painting. And then as soon as you walk out, it goes back to business as usual. And that's what I really think this shit is, bro. It is like just everybody's looking at the painting while people are like laundering a lot of money, and I think the Russians have a lot to do with this, guys, because these Russian oligarchs have been banned from like international banking. They have been banned from like participating in the economy, the same with a lot of like cartel people that became under the radar. And so ultimately you're talking about guys with billions of dollars that have to move this shit and they have to transfer it into money that can buy political power. I bet all of this is about some kind of money laundering, man. I would guess, if I had to venture to guess, it is like at the root of it is probably money laundering and maybe the money that's coming from human trafficking, from drug sales, from illicit arms sales, right? And certainly there's market manipulation and shit, but it's usually money, man. Dude, it's fucked up. But all right, dude, I gotta go make some videos, boss. Right? And now it might also be global political power and maybe it's starting to have something to do with resources, right? We may be moving into the natural resources section of this, right? Now that there's AI, I think AI has changed the game, guys, because AI is now, it's not so much about money anymore, okay? Like before, it was money from all these things, right? There's human trafficking, there's drugs, there's weapons, there's whatever, political clout. But now with AI, it's like electricity, it's power, and minerals. So it's like a whole new mafia, right? Where like, look at that. I mean, Trump's now trying to take Greenland. Nobody ever gave a shit about Greenland, dude. Nobody. Greenland was like, nobody ever gave a fuck about Greenland until AI and NVIDIA show up. And now all of a sudden, everybody wants Greenland. Everybody wants Venezuela. Right? We started going into Afghanistan. We talked about that last night, about the minerals, right? You're going to start seeing countries that nobody ever gave a shit about that have like, start becoming like globally important, right? It's going to be crazy, bro. Like you're all of a sudden a country that nobody fucking talked to for 70 years is going to become like everybody's best friend, dude. Everybody that has lithium, bro, is like, hey, yo, that's like the new thing, dude. You open your jacket, it's like, I got lithium in here. Like, people are gonna be lining up, bro. Like it's the Rainbow's bathroom, where everybody's doing lines in the bathroom in the kitchen of the Rainbow. Oh, shit. Dude, isn't that wild? I mean, we are in some shit, boss. Dude, I would love to stay and talk to you guys all night, but I got to go make some videos. I'm going to see a movie tomorrow afternoon, and I really want to try getting more than 2 videos. So, like, we're going to get into it, dude. Ukraine. Oh, yeah. No, Ukraine is absolutely about resources. For sure, dude. For sure, man. Money, land, power, sex, Epstein, middle of it. Absolutely. like, you know, I don't know, dude. Something's going on. Dude, RFK is a lunatic. Dude, what in the tinfoil is that guy? Dude, they're like pull-up bars in the airport. Like, really? What are we talking about, dude? Tinfoil. Like, who's going to use a pull-up bar in the airport? Only assholes are going to use a pull-up bar in the airport. Seriously, if you are the type of person who would use a pull-up bar in the airport, you're an asshole. I just know it. I just know it, dude. No, like man with any sense of humanity is going to go use a pull-up bar in an airport right before they get on a plane and smell like a fucking gym bag, right? Yeah. Dude, give me a break, bro. All right, let's dance, baby. You guys got a dance party. Let's get this shit on the road, baby. Let's go. We're doing it. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Ooh. Get your stretch on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, there's a pull-up bar in the airport. Let's go get the pull-ups in the airport. Dude. Oh, Cheryl, there's a pull-up bar over there. Let's go get the pull-up bar. Oh, yes. Dude, oh, let's go. Stretch it up. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, it feels good to stretch. Dude, I would love to stay and talk to you guys all night long, right? I'm telling you, maybe one day when we get the infrastructure, right? When we get the infrastructure and we get enough, like, you know, a couple years down the road when I have an editing team, we will like spend a lot more time talking. Yeah, no, your downstairs neighbor would not want you dancing right now. Have AI make my video? No. I have significantly reduced my AI usage, guys. I've like dialed it back to nothing. I canceled my ChatGPT subscription. I I have another AI subscription that is canceling. I'm pulling back. I'm pulling back from the AI. I'm like pulling off of it. I can in good conscience. I mean, you may have noticed that I removed my AI profile pic that I had really liked. I mean, there's still an AI picture I use here in the beginning and the end of the stream. But other than that, I fucking have removed it. I will occasionally, very occasionally, I will use Grok because it is like, it's, you know, it's there, right? But it's kind of useless for the most part, right? For the most part, I find AI to be just a little bit useless, okay? I really do. It doesn't give good information. I think the most I use it is in the search engines when we're on stream and I'm trying to find a summation of events or check a date or whatever. I'll use AI mode in Google that you see me here doing on stream. And when I don't need like perfect information, when I'm looking to just save time, not having to spend 20 minutes looking up details. That's all. That's all I really use it. But I've opted out of it with the, you know, did I see his rant the other day? I did not. I think, guys, the problem with it is it's unreliable, okay? It gives you a lot of bad information. and it teases you by giving it to you fast, and then it tries to it tries to interpret your behavior and tries to get you like continuing to use it. Okay? Like, I'm telling you, it is like a slot machine, guys. Okay? When you sit down, if you play a video game, if you play a slot machine, if you play a video poker machine, if you use any type of gambling or dopamine inducing activity, those things try to give you wins, however small, at a certain, variety, and they try to predictively behave into keeping you playing. Okay? If you hop on Call of Duty, the game Call of Duty has an AI algorithm that is trying to keep you on Call of Duty, because the longer you're on there, the more chance you're going to buy a skin or spend money unlocking something. And that is all the video games do this. All the social media algorithms have elements of this. They're feeding you, trying to get a purchase or trying to continue, like, get you teased into using it more. And so ChatGPT is the same. If you sit down and ask it one question, the reason why it gives you a couple questions below is because it wants you to continue using it for as long as possible. And all the while, it is like interpreting and analyzing your behavior. And then that information is going to be fed into all the other algorithms to attempt to manipulate you into buying shit. That's it, guys. It is like they are trying to turn us into manipulatable shoppers, okay? Fill our feed with certain types of things, get us commenting, hit us with an ad, and we're in a state of mind to go make that purchase, okay? Boom, bap, bing, right? Make that purchase or vote a certain way, yada, 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 right? Dude. Oh, you know what's funny? You know what I noticed last night, though, guys? Speaking of Elon, I do have to drop this nugget in there. Is I was searching for the total number of mentions of Elon Musk in the files, in the Epstein files, and none of the AI would give me that answer. It took me 20 minutes, and then I finally got it from Google's Gemini, but only after I called it out. It kept saying there were 60 emails or whatever. And I'm like, no, I just want a total number of mentions that his name comes up, because it'll quote you Bill Clinton's, but it won't quote you Elon Musk's. Okay. And that's really weird, guys, that the AI is like, we'll give you Bill Clinton's, 1186. But if you say, how many times was Elon Musk mentioned in the Epstein files? It'll say, well, Elon's been exonerated and there were 60 emails. And I'm like, dude, no, Elon had like 1,400 mentions or something, more than Clinton. But you can't get the AI to tell you that, boss. You have to fight with it. If you didn't know that information, you wouldn't be getting it. And that's crazy, dude. Like, this shit is like protecting people, bro. And it ain't protecting you. And it ain't protecting me, boss. All right, you ready? Oh. All right, here we go. Oh. Let me get this shit. Hold on. All right. All right, there we go, baby. We live. Woo! Oh. All right, let's get it. Let's get a little deja vu. Get into it, baby. Get into it. Get into it. Oh.
Before, yeah, I do recognize
got to get that heart rate up. There we go. All right, little aerobic exercise for the body. Oh, what do we got? What do we got coming up? I'm gonna go make some videos, and you guys, dude, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you guys. Good night.
Paint away, day and night, 𝗙𝗵𝗄𝗆. You're alright, goodbye then if you dare. Someone new is pulling everywhere. I'm afraid to let them. Nothing is what I say. I feel far away. Nothing is what I think. I will drown in panic. After you, I'm afraid of feeling some too soon. Cling to what you're giving. Nothing is what I say. I feel far away. Nothing is what I think. I will drown in panic. Paint away, day and night, 𝗙𝗵𝗄𝗆. You're alright, goodbye then if you dare. Someone new is pulling everywhere. I'm afraid to let them. Nothing is what I say. I